Chapter 247. With his subordinate's reminder, Ghost Annihilation recalled the method that the human had taught him the last time he entered the 5-elemental Tao Palace. He had never used it before, so he didn't know if it would work. However, in the current situation, Ghost Annihilation clearly didn't have much time to hesitate. He gritted his teeth and immediately followed the human's instructions. The leader of the ghost chanters bent his knees and knelt on the ground. He took a deep breath and shouted in Xiao Chen's direction, "Father, please spare my life." "Father, spare my life?" Xiao Chen, who was in the midst of a fierce battle with the Nian Gui, staggered when he heard the angry roar. He looked at the leader of the Nian Gui with a strange expression. What was going on? Why was his father asking for mercy in the middle of the fight? Could it be that these mind-reading ghosts were so smart? "You can't win, so you kneel down and call me daddy?" This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. When he saw that Xiao Chen had indeed stopped after he called him father, he was overjoyed and immediately yelled at the surviving tribesmen. "Kneel down, quickly kneel down." Under the orders of the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts, the remaining 10 or so spirit-reading ghosts knelt before Xiao Chen. Then, under the lead of the spirit-reading ghosts, the spirit-reading ghosts shouted continuously, "Father, spare me, spare me, spare me." Xiao Chen was a little confused when he saw these ghost readers kneeling on the ground and calling him daddy. They had already called him daddy, so it was a little difficult for him to make a move. This was the first time Xiao Chen had encountered such a situation. He stood rooted to the ground, dumbfounded. He was also rendered speechless by these mind readers. They were fighting to the death just a second ago, and the next second, they were all kneeling down and calling him daddy. This was just too. Furthermore, what Xiao Chen found most unacceptable was that these mind-reading ghosts seemed to be getting more and more fluent in calling out the word father in unison. Xiao Chen didn't know that the ghost-reading ghosts didn't know what the word father meant. Unlike humans, the ghost-reading ghosts didn't have the concept of parent. They were only born because of the 5-elemental Tao Palace. Therefore, the ghost-reading ghosts didn't know the meaning of the word father at all. To them, calling out the word father was a sign of admitting defeat, and this was taught to them by a human. He wondered who taught these spirit-reading ghosts to kneel down and call him father when they couldn't defeat him. This person was definitely a genius. Their voices were uniform. Moreover, when they saw that Xiao Chen really did not continue to attack, the spirit readers were overjoyed. They shouted even louder. Moreover, as they shouted for their father to spare their lives, they revealed expressions of joy and gratitude. Finally, the fiend had stopped. It seemed that the human didn't lie to them last time. Shouting "Father, spare my life" was really useful. They screamed for their father to spare their lives, but in the end it was Xiao Chen who told them to shut up. Only then did they stop. Xiao Chen walked over to the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts speechlessly. Seeing that Xiao Chen had walked over, the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts was shocked. He instinctively knelt down and shouted, "Father, please spare my life." "Shut up." Xiao Chen immediately shouted when he saw that the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts was about to shout again. Xiao Chen's battle intent slowly subsided after being interrupted by the spirit-reading ghost. He felt a little helpless. After some questioning, Xiao Chen found out that the phrase "father to spare their lives" was taught to them by a human from the heavenly Chen continent. He said that if they met a human that they couldn't defeat, as long as they shouted the word father, they would be able to turn the situation around. Xiao Chen didn't expect that this was taught to the spirit-reading ghosts by a human. Hearing this, the corner of his mouth twitched. What a genius! This guy was definitely a genius. In the end, Xiao Chen didn't go on a killing spree. After some discussion, the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts chose to surrender and was willing to follow Xiao Chen everywhere. Thinking about it, it would be a good choice to have a group of loyal spirit-reading ghosts as his subordinates in the 5 Tao Palace. After all, they would definitely know more about the 5 Tao Palace. Moreover, he could send them out to look for other people. This would save Xiao Chen a lot of trouble. After accepting the leader of the spirit-reading ghost's surrender, Xiao Chen did an inventory. He had killed a total of 43 spirit-reading ghosts. However, he only obtained 5 Dao Thought Seeds. Fortunately, Xiao Chen obtained 5 Dao Thought Seeds of the 5 elements. There was 1 seed of each element: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They were thumb-sized and looked like seeds. However, they emitted a faint white light. 43 spirit-reading ghosts, but only 5 Dao Thought Seeds. This probability was too low. Moreover, these 5 Dao Thought Seeds all came from the spirit-reading ghosts that were comparable to the Earth Mirror. In other words, it was impossible for a thought ghost below the Earth Mirror to possess a seed of Dao Will. Only after reaching the Earth Mirror would a thought ghost's body contain a seed of Dao Will. As for a thought ghost at the celestial realm, the probability was higher. Sigh, it seems that I don't have to consider the spirit-reading ghosts below the Earth Mirror anymore. I can only obtain Dao Thought Seeds by killing the spirit-reading ghosts above the Earth Mirror. Xiao Chen sighed helplessly and murmured softly. Just as Xiao Chen put away the 5 Dao Thought Seeds, the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts stepped forward respectfully and said, "Father, the room is ready." Since he had subdued the spirit-reading ghost tribe, Xiao Chen planned to use it as a base to slowly search for the prodigies who had entered the 5 elemental Dao Palace with him. However, when he heard the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts call him father, Xiao Chen said unhappily, "You're not allowed to call me father in the future. Do you understand?" It was unknown if these spirit-reading ghosts had a screw loose. After seeing that their father had spared their lives, they stubbornly believed that the word father was magical. As long as they met a human from the heavenly Chen continent, no matter what the situation was, they could resolve it with just the word father. Therefore, even though Xiao Chen had already let them off, they still insisted on calling Xiao Chen father. "Yes, father," the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts replied respectfully when he heard Xiao Chen's shout. He was completely speechless. No matter what he said, these guys had no intention of changing their words. Helpless, Xiao Chen walked directly to the wooden house that had been arranged for him. This wooden house originally belonged to the leader of the spirit-reading ghosts, but now it had become Xiao Chen's residence. Xiao Chen wanted to test the effects of the Dao Thought Seed. He walked quickly to the room with anticipation. However, wherever he passed, the spirit-reading ghosts would stop what they were doing and respectfully call out to Xiao Chen when they saw him. "Father!" Under the respectful greetings, Xiao Chen walked into the wooden house with a speechless expression. Once he closed the door, it was finally quiet. He sat down cross-legged and took out the 5 Dao Thought Seed. He smiled and said, "Let me see if these Dao Thought Seeds are really that magical." He couldn't wait to test the effects of the Dao Thought Seed. With that, Xiao Chen swallowed the 5 Dao Thought Seed. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 248. He swallowed the seed of the way in one gulp. At first, he did not feel anything, but soon, he found that his body was completely unable to move. At the same time, his soul seemed to have left his body and began to wander in the endless starry sky. Xiao Chen could not control his body, and at the same time, his soul had left his body. Of course, this feeling was very comfortable, and one would not want to resist it. It was as if he was on a spiritual journey, wandering in the endless starry sky. While he was wandering in the starry sky, it was as if there was a voice constantly teaching him in his ears, explaining to him all kinds of martial arts cultivation. It was a very wonderful feeling. There was obviously no one around, but he could really feel that there was a teacher teaching him. In this state, Xiao Chen's comprehension of martial arts was constantly increasing. This was the so-called imparting of the heavenly way. It was true that one could obtain the imparting of the heavenly way by swallowing the seed. It was as if a lonely boat was drifting in the endless starry sky. His soul seemed to be wrapped in the vast knowledge of martial arts. In such an environment, it was difficult not to improve. He did not know how much time had passed. Anyway, Xiao Chen felt that it had been at least a month. However, when Xiao Chen came back to his senses, the seed that Xiao Chen had swallowed had been completely refined and absorbed. He slowly opened his eyes. In reality, only 2 hours had passed. Xiao Chen felt that he had spent at least a month on the mental journey to the Great Void. However, the truth was that only 2 hours had passed since Xiao Chen had swallowed the seed of will. It was simply too magical. This seed was simply too magical. If it were not for the fact that this seed could not be brought out of the 5 elements Tao Palace, there would be many people in the Tiantian continent who could rely on this seed to break through the shackles of many years. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Chen was very satisfied with the effect of the seed. However, there was one thing that he was worried about. When absorbing and refining the seed, he was completely defenseless. If he encountered any danger during this period, he would not be able to fight back. Therefore, in order to refine the seed, he needed a trustworthy person to protect him. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous. After all, this was the 5 elements Tao Palace, the world of the mind-reading ghost. In such an environment, it was obvious that he could not put himself in such a dangerous situation. After refining these 5 seeds, Xiao Chen also realized that he could not be too casual when refining the seed in the future. He must have a trustworthy person to protect him. The situation just now was actually very dangerous. If the mind-reading ghosts had any evil intentions, Xiao Chen could only be slaughtered. Fortunately, it was a daunting experience without danger. There were no more seeds on him, not a single one. Immediately, Xiao Chen began to try to cultivate. The spiritual energy in the 5 elements Tao Palace was known to be more than 10 times that of the Tiantian continent. This was something that Xiao Chen felt when he first entered the 5 elements Tao Palace. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in this world was indeed extremely rich. It was not any weaker than the cultivation treasures of the Tiantian continent. When he tried to cultivate, it was as if his body had turned into a black hole, crazily devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around him. In just half an hour, Xiao Chen felt that his cultivation had improved a lot. At least, it was comparable to 3 days of cultivation in the Tiantian continent. Half an hour was comparable to 3 days in the Tiantian continent. What kind of concept was this? He was very satisfied. Then, Xiao Chen called for the mind-reading ghost leader. Upon receiving Xiao Chen's call, the mind-reading ghost leader quickly rushed over. As soon as he entered, he knelt down before Xiao Chen and shouted loudly, "Father." Hearing this, the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth unconsciously twitched. To be called father by an ugly mind-reading ghost, how could he describe this feeling? It was just uncomfortable. Duo Fu, do you know the situation in this area? Knowing that the mind-reading ghost leader's name was Duo Fu, Xiao Chen asked him about the situation in this area. Facing Xiao Chen's question, Duo Fu did not hide anything. According to him, this area was actually at the edge of the 5 elements Tao Palace. There were 28 mind-reading ghost tribes, but the ruler was a tribe called the Night Eclipse tribe. The Nocturnal Eclipse tribe was the strongest ghost reader tribe in this area. It was said that there were hundreds of celestial realm ghost readers in the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. There were thousands of ghost readers in the entire tribe. Furthermore, the leader of the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe had 1 foot in the Ghost King realm. This was the first time Xiao Chen had heard of a Ghost King. With Duo Fu's explanation, Xiao Chen quickly understood that the Ghost King was a mind-reading ghost that had surpassed the Heaven realm. It was equivalent to a human Tao querying realm warrior, so it was called a Ghost King. In the 5 elements Tao Palace, the Ghost King was the strongest resentful ghost. In the entire 5 elements Tao Palace, the number of Ghost Kings would not exceed the number of fingers on one hand. Below the Ghost Kings were the half-step Ghost Kings like the leader of the Night Eclipse tribe. After roughly understanding the situation in this area, Shao Chen pondered for a moment and decided to look for the heavenly Chun continent's prodigies first. Then, Shao Chen ordered Duo Fu to send people out to search for humans. After hearing Shao Chen's order, Duo Fu respectfully complied and left the wooden house. After Duo Fu left, Shao Chen began to ponder. There were 28 mind-reading ghost tribes in this area, and Duo Fu's tribe was the weakest among the 28 tribes. However, there were a few tribes that were similar in strength to the Duo Fu tribe, and none of them had a heaven realm mind-reading ghost. For the time being, Shao Chen did not plan to provoke the Night Eclipse tribe. After all, there was a half-step ghost king there, and it would be dangerous for him to go alone. Since that was the case, he might as well start with the weaker tribes. The task of searching for humans was handed over to Duo Fu and the rest. Shao Chen prepared to continue hunting mind-reading ghosts. After all, he had too few Dao thought seeds. From Duo Fu, Shao Chen found out that the nearest mind-reading ghost tribe was only slightly stronger than the Duo Fu tribe. There were 15 Earth Realm mind-reading ghosts in the tribe, and the rest were below the Earth Realm mind-reading ghosts. The entire tribe only had about 100 mind-reading ghosts. Such strength was naturally not a problem for Shao Chen. However, there were only 15 Earth Realm mind-reading ghosts, which left Shao Chen speechless. After all, Dao thought seeds could only be found in mind-reading ghosts that were above the Earth Realm mind-reading ghost. He was a little disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he could only take one step at a time. On the same day, Shao Chen left the Duo Fu tribe and began his hunting journey in the Five Elements Palace. Chapter 249. According to Duo Fu, the tribe was called the Sang Ping tribe. The leader of the tribe was called Sang Ping. He was slightly stronger than Duo Fu, but not by much. Shao Chen only took a little more than 2 hours to reach the Sang Ping tribe from the Duo Fu tribe. The distance between the two tribes wasn't too far. In other words, the Five Elemental Taoist Palace wasn't that big. It wasn't even as big as the Dongyang region. The Sang Ping tribe was located in a dense forest. It was surrounded by towering ancient trees. Furthermore, the trees in the Five Elemental Taoist Palace were different from those in the Tianqian continent. The trunks were as hard as black iron and the leaves were as sharp as blades. As a result, the ancient trees became a natural barrier for the Sang Ping tribe. The intelligence of the thought ghosts wasn't weak. They were very particular about the location of the tribe. The Duo Fu tribe was built in a hidden valley, while the Sang Ping tribe was built in a dense forest with the ancient trees as a natural barrier. After secretly observing the Sang Ping tribe for a while, Shao Chen decided to take action after confirming that the strength of the Sang Ping tribe was as Duo Fu had described. With his strength, there was no need for a sneak attack. Therefore, Shao Chen swaggered into the Sang Ping tribe. As soon as he arrived outside the Sang Ping tribe, the thought ghosts of the Sang Ping tribe noticed Shao Chen. They were stunned at first, but they soon sneered. "Haha, human, we're really lucky today. We actually met a human who walked right into our trap." Similar to the reaction of the Duo Fu tribe, the thought ghosts of the Sang Ping tribe were extremely excited when they saw Shao Chen. Soon, the thought ghosts of the Sang Ping tribe surrounded Shao Chen, led by their leader, Sang Ping. There were close to 100 thought ghosts. 15 of them were comparable to the Earth Mirror level. Shao Chen didn't waste any time. The storage ring on his hand flashed, and the scarlet edge sword appeared in his hand. He slashed out with the 100-layered waves and killed an Earth Mirror level thought ghost in front of him. It was a one-hit kill. However, Shao Chen shook his head in disappointment. This spirit-reading ghost actually didn't have a Dao intent seed in its body. This wasn't a good start. Sang Ping's face darkened when he saw that Shao Chen had killed a spirit-reading ghost that was comparable to an Earth Mirror in a single strike. He shouted coldly, "This brat is strong. Let's kill him together." The fat leader, Sang Ping, could tell at a glance that Shao Chen was strong and did not dare to be careless. He immediately ordered the spirit-reading ghosts to surround and kill Shao Chen. At the same time, he took the lead and attacked Shao Chen. In the face of the Sang Ping's spirit-reading ghosts, the long sword in Shao Chen's hand let out a sword hum. Then, the entire battlefield was instantly enveloped by sword chi. Sword light filled the sky and the spirit-reading ghost screams could be heard. Since Shao Chen dared to come alone, he naturally had complete confidence. Moreover, Shao Chen's target was very clear. He only targeted the 15 spirit-reading ghosts of the Earth Mirror level. This was because the spirit-reading ghosts below the Earth Mirror level couldn't possibly have a Tao intent seed in their bodies. Therefore, it didn't matter to Shao Chen whether he killed them or not. Shao Chen's target had been the 15 spirit-reading ghosts at Earth Mirror level since the beginning of the battle. In less than a quarter of an hour, 3 spirit-reading ghosts had already died under Shao Chen's sword. Sadly, the 3 spirit-reading ghosts did not even leave a single seed. It seemed that the seeds of the will of Shao Chen really depended on his face. Feeling frustrated, Shao Chen's attacks became more and more ruthless. There were 15 spirit-reading ghosts at the Earth Mirror level today. It was impossible that he would not get a single seed of the will of Shao Chen. Damn it, how is this human so strong? Sang Ping couldn't help but curse as he watched Shao Chen slaughtering the spirit-reading ghosts one after another. Shao Chen ignored Sang Ping's curses and continued his attacks. Finally, after killing the 5th spirit-reading ghost, Shao Chen obtained his first Tao intent seed. It was an Earth attribute Tao intent seed. Without hesitation, Shao Chen reached out and grabbed the Tao intent seed into his ring. As though he was extremely lucky, Shao Chen obtained Tao intent seeds from the 6th, 7th, and 8th spirit-reading ghosts. However, it was a pity that all 4 Tao intent seeds were of the Earth attribute and couldn't be refined. The massacre continued. After Shao Chen killed 12 spirit-reading ghosts of the Earth Mirror level and dozens of spirit-reading ghosts of the mysterious Aeon level, Sang Ping was completely dumbfounded. How could this human be so strong? He was on a completely different level compared to those humans from before. A human with a single sword could actually annihilate an entire spirit-reading tribe. This was something that rarely happened before. Without giving Sang Ping a chance, Shao Chen killed him with his dragon spring sword finger. At this point, all 15 spirit-reading ghosts of the Earth Mirror level were dead and Shao Chen obtained 8 Tao intent seed. However, it was a pity that unlike the previous time, the 8 Tao intent seeds that Shao Chen obtained weren't of the 5 elements. 5 of them were of the Earth attribute, 2 of them were of the Water attribute, and 1 of them was of the Metal attribute. As a result, even though Shao Chen possessed 8 Tao intent seeds, he couldn't refine them. Shao Chen didn't attack because he had already killed all the spirit-reading ghosts of the Sang Ping tribe. The remaining spirit-reading ghosts of the mysterious Aeon level were of no use to him. Similarly, seeing that Shao Chen didn't attack, the remaining spirit-reading ghosts of the mysterious Aeon level began to retreat unconsciously. They looked at Shao Chen with eyes full of fear. This human was simply a devil. In less than 2 hours, he had slaughtered the Sang Ping tribe's leader and the experts of the Sang Ping tribe. With such strength, the surviving spirit-reading ghosts couldn't muster any fighting spirit. They thought that Shao Chen was going to kill them all and kept retreating. In the end, one of the spirit-reading ghosts suddenly knelt on the ground and shouted, "Father, please spare me." This cry of "Father, please spare me" sounded so familiar to Shao Chen. He looked at the kneeling spirit-reading ghost with a strange expression. Did the spirit-reading ghosts of the Sang Ping tribe also know this move? The familiar scene appeared again. The spirit-reading ghosts knelt in front of Shao Chen and shouted for mercy. Shao Chen was speechless. He really didn't know who taught these spirit-reading ghosts this phrase. He didn't attack again. After all, it didn't matter if he killed these spirit-reading ghosts of the mysterious Aeon level. They couldn't possibly have Tao will seeds in their bodies. He walked away and watched Shao Chen's back as he gradually disappeared into the forest. Only then did the surviving spirit-reading ghosts heave a sigh of relief. This human was really too terrifying. However, Father, please spare me was indeed useful. Didn't Xiao Qin stop attacking after he shouted? For a moment, the spirit-reading ghosts of the Sangping tribe believed in their father's words of Father, please spare me. They were determined to kneel and beg for mercy if they met any powerful human in the future. Chapter 250. After killing all the Earth mirror-reading ghosts, Xiao Qin left in satisfaction. Not long after Xiao Qin left, another human arrived outside the Sangping tribe. This person was dressed in black and was the peerless genius of the Mu clan, Mu Feng. Mu Feng was also sent to this area, but his luck was obviously better than Xiao Qin's. He was not sent directly to the nest of the reading ghost. After exploring the forest for an entire day, Mu Feng finally arrived at the outskirts of the Sangping tribe. He had never come into contact with a ghost-reading tribe before. When Mu Feng realized that he had unintentionally entered a ghost-reading tribe, his face immediately darkened. Mu Feng was not the king of geniuses. He was merely a peerless genius. Although his combat strength was extraordinary and could be said to be invincible among those of the same cultivation level, he would not be able to do so as easily as Xiao Qin if he was surrounded by the Nian ghost. In fact, if the Sangping tribe was at its peak, it was entirely possible for them to surround and kill Mu Feng. After all, only the king of geniuses could easily defeat 15 Earth mirror-level Nian ghosts. He wanted to retreat, but he was too late. More than 20 reading ghosts had already rushed out. Mu Feng's heart sank when he saw the appearance of these reading ghosts. However, just like Mu Feng, it had been less than an hour since Xiao Qin left. The reading ghosts of the Sangping tribe also felt their scalps go numb when they saw another human. If Mu Feng had appeared before Xiao Qin, the reading ghosts of the Sangping tribe would not have hesitated to kill him. Fortunately, Mu Feng only appeared after Xiao Qin left. The Sangping tribe could be said to have been completely destroyed by Xiao Qin. They did not have the slightest intention to fight against a human. Mu Feng did not know what had happened in the Sangping tribe. Faced with these 20 mind-reading ghosts, he was stunned at the beginning. Then, he steeled his heart and immediately took out his earth weapon, shouting loudly, "Come on, you bunch of bastards! Today, I will fight it out with you!" As a peerless genius, Mu Feng was obviously not that weak. Even though he had unintentionally barged into the lair of Nian Gui, Mu Feng had no intention of giving up. Since he was going to die anyway, he naturally had to give it his all. Mu Feng was prepared for a bloody battle. But what he didn't expect was that after he let out a bellow, more than 20 spirit-reading ghosts knelt on the ground and shouted, "Father, please spare us, what was going on?" Kneeling down and calling him daddy before the fight even started? Mu Feng was stunned by the actions of the spirit-reading ghost. He had never come into contact with the spirit-reading ghosts before, so he was completely dumbfounded. He thought that this was a ploy by the spirit-reading ghosts to lower his guard and then take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. After all, everyone knew that the spirit-reading ghosts were cunning and cruel by nature. Mu Feng concluded that these mind-reading ghosts were doing this on purpose to numb him. He glared at them and shouted coldly, "This kind of scheme is despicable. Not to mention calling me father, even if you call me grandfather, I won't fall for it. Die." As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Feng no longer hesitated. He made the first move and attacked the group of mind-reading ghosts. With Mu Feng's strength, facing a group of spirit-reading ghosts who were only at the mystic Ian realm was naturally not a big problem. After a bloody battle, Mu Feng slaughtered the spirit-reading ghosts one by one. These spirit-reading ghosts in the Sangping tribe probably couldn't figure out until they died. Their father's mercy worked well against Xiao Qin, so why didn't it work against Mu Feng? After completely slaughtering the spirit-reading ghosts in the Sangping tribe, Mu Feng didn't get any Dao Will seeds. He had no choice. The spirit-reading ghosts he killed were all at the mystic Ian realm, so it was impossible for them to have Dao Will seeds. Feeling a little disappointed, Mu Feng then searched the Sang Ping tribe again. In the end, he didn't find anything and had to leave helplessly. Xiao Chen had no idea that Mu Feng was so close to him. For the next few days, he spent the rest of his time hunting the mind ghosts, except for spending 2 hours each day cultivating. Over the past 2 days, Xiao Chen had wiped out another 2 tribes of weaker chanting ghosts. Like before, he only killed the chanting ghosts who were at the level of Earth Mirror. Similarly, after being scared out of their wits by Xiao Chen, these chanting ghosts would kneel and beg for mercy. Xiao Chen was already used to these spirit-reading ghosts' actions. In his opinion, when the 5 Elements Taoist Palace opened last time, there must have been a lunatic in the heavenly Qin continent who spread the word that as long as they met humans, they would be able to resolve their grudges by begging for mercy. However, these spirit-reading ghosts believed it. After wiping out 2 ghost-reading tribes in a row, Xiao Chen now had 18 Dao Will seeds in his possession. At the same time, Xiao Chen had also successfully collected the second set of Dao Will seeds of the 5 elements. Of course, most of them had the same attribute. It had only been 3 days since he entered the 5 Elements Taoist Palace, but his harvest was pretty good. The only thing that made Xiao Chen feel a little helpless was that it had been 3 days, but he still hadn't found a single human supreme talent. He didn't even know where they had been transported to. Feeling a little anxious, Xiao Chen repeatedly urged Duo Fu to increase the effort of searching for humans. Just as Xiao Chen was anxiously searching for humans, Mu Feng, who wasn't far from Xiao Chen, had passed by 2 other spirit-reading tribes. Coincidentally, these 2 spirit-reading tribes had been massacred by Xiao Chen. When Mu Feng appeared, the spirit-reading tribes of these 2 tribes didn't have any intention of resisting. They immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. Starting from the Sang Ping tribe, Mu Feng had encountered 3 spirit-reading tribes. However, when these spirit-reading tribes saw him, they didn't hesitate to beg for mercy. This made Mu Feng very surprised. However, although he was surprised, Mu Feng didn't show any mercy. He shouted coldly, "Mercy, father? Humph, even if you call me grandfather today, you will still die." Mu Feng didn't stop because of the words father. He was like Xiao Chen's tale. After Xiao Chen ransacked these 3 spirit-reading tribes, Mu Feng appeared again and killed them all. However, Mu Feng didn't get a single Dao Force seed after ransacking these 3 spirit-reading tribes. This was because all the Dao Force seeds had been taken away by Xiao Chen. After massacring these 3 spirit-reading tribes, the spirit-reading ghosts of the Duo Fu tribe finally found Mu Feng. However, they didn't appear directly because they saw with their own eyes that Mu Feng didn't seem to care about their father's mercy. Even if they begged for mercy, they would still be killed by him. Father's mercy doesn't work on this human? One of the spirit-reading ghosts of the Duo Fu tribe asked doubtfully. I think I heard this human call you grandfather. Could it be that he doesn't want father to spare his life, but rather grandfather to spare his life? Fearing that they would be killed by Mu Feng, the 2 spirit-reading ghosts of the Duofu tribe did not show themselves directly. After some discussion, they decided that one of them would follow Mu Feng, while the other would send the news back to the tribe and let the chief make the decision. Chapter 251. Mu Feng's confidence was boosted after wiping out 3 ghost-reading tribes in a row. He sneered as he continued on his journey. These ghost-reading ghosts aren't as scary as my cousin described. Every time we meet, they would kneel down and beg for mercy. They only know how to resort to such despicable means. They are completely fearless. The cousin that Mu Feng was referring to was naturally Bloodwood prodigy King Mu He. After wiping out 3 ghost-reading tribes in a row, Mu Feng's fear of the ghost-reading ghosts had lessened significantly. In Mu Feng's opinion, these ghost-reading ghosts who only knew how to kneel down and beg for mercy were nothing more than ants. It had to be said that some things in this world were just so coincidental. Mu Feng had been in the 5 Elements Palace for a few days, and the psyche ghosts he had encountered were all psyche ghosts that had been scared out of their wits by Xiao Chen. These psyche ghosts had lost their will to fight against humans, which was why they would cry for mercy. If Mu Feng had encountered a psyche ghost from another tribe, he probably wouldn't have cried for mercy. It was a pity that Mu Feng had completely believed that the psyche ghosts were like that, and would only cry for mercy when they met to numb him. Mu Feng felt emboldened and felt that he should be able to do whatever he wanted in the 5 elemental Dao Palace. The only pity was that he didn't obtain a single Dao 4 seed after killing nearly 100 mind-reading ghosts. His luck was really bad. He thought that he was too unlucky to not get a Dao Will seed. However, Mu Feng didn't know that the reason why he didn't get a Dao Will seed had nothing to do with luck. It was because the ghost-reading tribes that he had encountered had all been killed by Shaochen. As such, it was naturally impossible for him to get a Dao Will seed. Mu Feng walked through the forest with his head held high. The current Mu Feng obviously wouldn't back down when he encountered a ghost-reading tribe. This was because the ghost-reading tribe didn't pose any threat to him at all. At the same time, in the Duofu tribe, Duofu received a report that they had found a human. However, this human was a little strange. He didn't like to be a father, but liked to be a grandfather. Therefore, Duofu's subordinates didn't dare to approach him rashly, for fear of being killed by this human. The human that Duofu's subordinates were talking about was obviously Mu Feng. Even now, there was still a spirit reader from the Duofu tribe following Mu Feng in secret. When Duofu received this news, he immediately reported it to Shaochen. After hearing Duofu's report, Shaochen said with a strange expression, "What? You like being a grandfather?" Shaochen didn't know that this person was Mu Feng, but when he heard Duofu say that this was a person who liked being a grandfather, Shaochen was secretly amused. A person who liked being a grandfather. However, being able to find a human prodigy was indeed a good thing. Immediately, Shaochen asked Duofu to send someone to confirm Mu Feng's current location, and then he would go personally. Shaochen was naturally concerned that he had finally found someone from the heavenly Chen continent. After hearing Shaochen's words, Duofu also immediately sent someone to confirm Mu Feng's current location. Just as Shaochen was preparing to go to Mu Feng's aid, Mu Feng, on the other hand, had arrived at a small plain after half a day's journey. Seeing that Mu Feng had actually entered the plain, the ghost-reading tribe that had been secretly following Mu Feng had a drastic change of expression. It stood outside the plain and hesitated for a while, but ultimately, it didn't dare to take a single step into the plain. This was because the plain was where the Night Eclipse tribe was located. As the most powerful ghost-reading tribe in this area, the Night Eclipse tribe's strength was terrifying. Not only was their leader a ghost king half-step away, but there were also hundreds of ghost-reading tribes in the celestial realm. Not daring to continue following him, the ghost-reading tribe finally turned back to the tribe. It was prepared to inform Shaochen of this matter, and let Shaochen make the decision himself. Unaware that he had entered the Night Eclipse tribe's territory, Mu Feng was still secretly anticipating whether the next ghost-reading tribe he encountered would have a Dao Thought seed. God bless me. The next time I meet a ghost-reading tribe, I must have a Dao Thought seed. Just as he was praying in his heart, Mu Feng saw a large ghost-reading tribe from afar. It looked like a simple city with wooden fences protecting it. Inside, densely packed wooden houses were scattered all over the place. This was the Night Eclipse tribe. Its scale was many times larger than the other ghost-reading tribes. However, Mu Feng was not nervous at all in the face of such a terrifying ghost-reading tribe. A smile appeared on his face as he shouted, "Ghost-reading tribe, your Grandpa Mu is here." It was as if he had seen a piece of juicy meat. Thinking that it was another group of ferocious-looking ghost-reading tribe, they knelt before him and begged for mercy. Then, they started a massacre. Mu Feng rushed towards the Night Eclipse tribe excitedly. At the same time, dozens of ghost-reading tribe guards outside the Night Eclipse tribe also saw a human rushing towards them excitedly. For a moment, these ghost-reading tribe guards were confused by Mu Feng. What was going on? Was this human crazy? He was alone. Not only did he not run when he saw the ghost-reading tribe, he even rushed over excitedly. Leader, this human is a little abnormal. An earth mirror-reading ghost looked at the tall ghost-reading tribe leader and said. Calling this spirit reader ghost captain was indeed true. This spirit reader ghost was very different from the other spirit reader ghosts in terms of appearance. First of all, his body was much bigger. He was almost 3 meters tall. The muscles on his body were also very strong. Especially his pair of sharp claws, which had started to turn from green to black. Just by looking at his appearance, one could tell that this ghost-reading tribe was very strong. This ghost-reading tribe of the celestial realm had terrifying strength. It was not an exaggeration to say that if a celestial realm human and a ghost-reading tribe of the celestial realm were to fight, the human would have no chance of winning. Of course, this was excluding the Sky Prides and King of Prides. However, even Sky Prides could only guarantee that they would not be defeated in the same realm. If they wanted to defeat a ghost-reading tribe of the celestial realm, perhaps only the 10 King of Prides could do it. In the Night Eclipse tribe, the ghost-reading tribe leaders were all in the celestial realm. Hearing his subordinate's words, the leader looked at Mu Feng, who was running towards him with a puzzled look. Under the watchful eyes of this group of ghost-reading tribe members, Mu Feng quickly arrived outside the Night Eclipse tribe. He looked at this group of ghost-reading tribe members excitedly. He did not notice that the expressions of these ghost-reading tribe members were different from the ghost-reading tribe members from the other 3 tribes. Mu Feng shouted loudly, "Your Grandpa Mu is here. Hurry up and kneel down and beg your father for mercy." Chapter 252. Your Grandpa Mu is here. Bastards, kneel down and beg for your father's mercy. He shouted excitedly as he rushed over. Upon hearing Mu Feng's words, a cold glint flashed across the eyes of the celestial realm bastard. Is this human courting death? Not only did he barge into the Night Eater tribe alone, he even dared to ask them to kneel down and beg for their father's mercy? It was obvious that the Night Eater tribe did not know about the story of their father's mercy. The human who taught the other tribes about their father's mercy had also never been to the Night Eater tribe. This was normal. The Nocturnal Eclipse tribe's strength was obvious. The small ghost-chanting tribe might not be able to do anything to the human who entered the 5 Elements Tao Palace, but the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe could easily crush him. Therefore, the human was smart enough not to come to the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe and beg for mercy from his father. Mu Feng was still unaware that he had completely barged into a tiger's den. At this moment, he was still fantasizing about how he obtained the first Tao seed. Judging by the size of the Night Eater tribe, there must be a lot of bastards. With so many bastards, there should be at least 1 Tao seed. Mu Feng did not know that if he could really destroy the entire Night Eater tribe, it was possible to obtain thousands of Tao seeds, let alone 1. After all, there were thousands of bastards in the Night Eater tribe. He had already arrived at the entrance of the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe and stood opposite the dozens of psychic ghosts. Seeing that the psychic ghosts did not immediately kneel down and beg their father for mercy, but instead were glaring at him fiercely, Mu Feng instantly realized that something was wrong. This wasn't how the script was written. The 3 Ghost Whisperer tribes that he had passed by earlier had knelt down and greeted him as soon as they saw him. But now, why were the Ghost Whisperer of this tribe sizing him up as though he was their prey? The plot did not develop according to Mu Feng's expectations. Seeing that Mu Feng was at a loss, the leader of the bastard tribe laughed sinisterly. This human does have some problems, but it doesn't matter. As long as he has the heart, take him down. Even the bastard tribe thought that there was something wrong with Mu Feng's head. Following the leader's command, a group of Earth Mirror-level bastards immediately rushed towards Mu Feng. Seeing this, Mu Feng's heart sank and he cursed inwardly. Why the F** King Ghost here doesn't play by the rules? Shouldn't he be kneeling down and begging father for mercy? This was far beyond Mu Feng's expectations. However, given the current situation, Mu Feng clearly had no other choice. He summoned his earth weapon and immediately engaged in a fierce battle with the thought ghosts. Faced with the siege of dozens of spirit-reading ghosts at the earth mirror level, Mu Feng tragically discovered that not only did these spirit-reading ghosts not kneel down and beg for mercy, even their combat strength was far superior to the spirit-reading ghosts he had encountered before. Of course, the mind-reading ghosts that Mu Feng had encountered earlier were the ones that Xiao Chen had killed. Their strength was at the mysterious Yuan stage. Given Mu Feng's cultivation and fighting strength, it was naturally a one-sided slaughter against the mind-reading ghosts at the mysterious Yuan stage. But now, it wasn't the Black Origin realm Nian Gui that was besieging Mu Feng. Instead, it was the Earth Mirror realm Nian Gui. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. Mu Feng's expression changed drastically as he cursed. Damn it! Did the psychic ghost here take some aphrodisiac? So ferocious? They were completely different from the spirit-reading ghosts that he had encountered before. An ominous premonition arose in his heart. Although Mu Feng could be a little foolish at times, he wasn't an idiot. Therefore, he quickly realized that there was a huge problem with his understanding of the spirit-reading ghost. It wasn't that the spirit-reading ghosts weren't dangerous at all. It was just that he hadn't encountered them before. The spirit-reading ghosts here were obviously extremely dangerous. Mu Feng wanted to retreat, but it was too late. He was already surrounded by the spirit-reading ghosts and was in a desperate situation. His strong desire to survive made him give it his all. As a peerless genius, Mu Feng's combat strength was not to be underestimated. Although he was not as strong as the 10 Great Prides, he was still much stronger than the spirit-reading ghosts of the Earth Mirror. If it was a one-on-one battle, Mu Feng could definitely kill them easily. Unfortunately, it was not a one-on-one battle. Mu Feng resisted with all his might and successfully killed an Earth Mirror-reading ghost. Moreover, there was a Dao seed in the spirit-reading ghost's body. Seeing the Dao seed, Mu Feng couldn't help but exclaim, "Dao seed, this is a Dao seed." Mu Feng did not expect that he would actually obtain a Daoist thought seed when he was in such a desperate situation. However, before Mu Feng could rejoice, team leader Nian, who had not made a move until now, saw that his subordinate had been killed by Mu Feng. He immediately flew into a rage and shouted coldly, "A bunch of trash, get out of my way!" Apparently, after witnessing Mu Feng kill his subordinate, the spirit-reading ghost was ready to take action himself. Upon hearing the spirit-reading ghost's command, the spirit-reading ghosts retreated. Then, the spirit-reading ghost bent his legs and stomped on the ground. In an instant, he turned into a black shadow and charged towards Mu Feng like a cannonball. The black shadow appeared in front of Mu Feng in an instant. He didn't use the sharp claws that the spirit-reading ghost was proud of. Perhaps the spirit-reading ghost thought that Mu Feng wasn't worthy enough for him to take seriously, so he only threw a punch. Even so, Mu Feng was still unable to withstand Captain Nian Gui's punch. The powerful force sent Mu Feng flying away. He didn't have time to react at all. From the moment the spirit-reading ghost attacked to the moment Mu Feng was sent flying, only a split second had passed. How is this possible? Mu Feng didn't expect the spirit-reading ghost to be so strong that he couldn't even withstand a single blow. Mu Feng didn't know that the spirit-reading ghost before him had reached the celestial realm. In the 5 Elemental Palace, spirit-reading ghosts who had reached the celestial realm were also known as sky ghosts. There was a qualitative difference between them and ordinary spirit-reading ghosts. After sending Mu Feng flying with a punch, the sky ghost sneered. "How dare you come to the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe with your ant-like strength? Seems like there's something wrong with your head." Upon hearing the sky ghost's words, Mu Feng struggled to stand up. His eyes were filled with solemnity. He had indeed underestimated the danger of the spirit-reading ghost. But then again, it wasn't entirely Mu Feng's fault. Ever since he entered the Five Elemental Palace, the spirit-reading ghosts that Mu Feng encountered were all left behind by Xiao Qin. It was the same for 3 spirit-reading tribes in a row. It was understandable for Mu Feng to look down on the spirit-reading ghost. The series of coincidences put Mu Feng in a desperate situation. At this moment, Mu Feng finally understood that not all spirit-reading ghosts in the Five Elemental Palace would kneel and beg for mercy. Chapter 253. Mu Feng was already in a desperate situation. Faced with the siege of a heavenly ghost and dozens of spirit-reading ghosts at the Earth Mirror level, it was obviously impossible for him to escape with his strength. Moreover, this was only the tip of the iceberg of the Night Eclipse tribe. There were at least dozens of such troops in the tribe. Mu Feng was in complete despair. It was impossible to even break out of the siege. His heart was filled with regret. At the same time, after injuring Mu Feng with a punch, the heavenly ghost approached step by step. Its eyes were full of mockery. In its view, Mu Feng was already a duck on the chopping board. It was impossible for him to escape. Human, surrender. If you do, I can let you die a little faster, the heavenly ghost said with a cold laugh. Mu Feng did not reply. At the last moment, Mu Feng was still thinking about how to escape. However, the heavenly ghost obviously did not give Mu Feng too much time. Seeing that Mu Feng chose to remain silent, the heavenly ghost moved and rushed towards Mu Feng. Its sharp claws locked onto Mu Feng's chest. This claw was definitely enough to rip Mu Feng's stomach open. It was only a matter of a moment. Facing the heavenly ghost's attack, Mu Feng chose to resist with all his might and successfully block the claw. However, this was only the beginning. Next, the heavenly ghost's attack came like a storm. As a peerless genius, Mu Feng could indeed resist the heavenly ghost's attack. However, such resistance would definitely not last long. The heavenly ghost was still suppressing Mu Feng. Its strength was much stronger than an ordinary celestial realm warrior. It was also because Mu Feng's combat strength was not bad. Otherwise, if it were anyone else, they would have been killed by the heavenly ghost. You overestimate yourself, human. Die. Perhaps the heavenly ghost had lost its patience because of Mu Feng's resistance. The heavenly ghost shouted coldly and broke through Mu Feng's defense with a punch. It then turned its fist into a claw and ruthlessly went straight for Mu Feng's chest. It's over. Mu Feng's heart sank. In the face of this attack, he had no time to react. He could only watch as the heavenly ghost's claw tore through his chest. Even Mu Feng himself was in despair. At this critical moment, a sword aura violently attacked. Facing this sword aura, the heavenly ghost felt an extremely dangerous aura. Without hesitation, he chose to retreat. It had to be said that the Sky Ghost's choice was very correct. If he hadn't chosen to retreat, his entire arm would have been cut off by the sword at this moment. Seeing the sudden appearance of the sword aura, Mu Feng was overjoyed. Someone from the heavenly Qin continent had come. He turned his head abruptly and saw Xiao Qin rushing over with the scarlet-edged sword in hand. In just a few breaths, he had appeared in front of Mu Feng. Xiao Qin. Mu Feng did not expect the person to be Xiao Qin and cried out in surprise. But soon, the surprise turned into joy. If the person who came was Xiao Qin, their chances of escaping would be much higher. After all, if the person who came was also a peerless genius, it would not be of much use. Xiao Qin was one of the 10 King of Prides. His strength was comparable to his cousin Mu He. With Xiao Qin around, their chances of escaping would indeed increase. Mu Feng had never felt that Xiao Qin was so handsome. He was already in a desperate situation and thought that he was going to die. But Xiao Qin's appearance gave Mu Feng hope. However, while Mu Feng was secretly rejoicing, Xiao Qin said with some surprise, "You're the one who loves to be a grandfather?" Previously, when Xiao Qin heard that Duo Fu had found a human who did not love to be a father but a grandfather, he was still wondering who it could be. He did not expect this person to be Mu Feng. He laughed involuntarily. Mu Feng had always been known to be arrogant and domineering. Who would have thought that under such an appearance, Mu Feng would actually have such a cute side? Mu Feng's face immediately turned red when he heard Xiao Chen's words. But obviously, now was not the time to talk about this. The most important thing was to leave this place. Xiao Chen locked his gaze on the heavenly ghost in front of him and asked Mu Feng without turning his head, "Can you still run?" "Yes." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mu Feng replied, "Good. Listen to my instructions later. Don't look back and rush out of this plane. There will be spirit-reading ghosts outside to receive you. These spirit-reading ghosts are my people. Just follow them," Xiao Chen said. Xiao Chen entered the plane alone. The spirit-reading ghosts of the Duo Fu tribe were all waiting outside the plane. They had no choice as they did not dare to set foot in the territory of the Nocturnal Eater tribe. The spirit-reading ghosts were Xiao Chen's subordinate. When he heard the question, Mu Feng did not react at first. But at this moment, the heavenly ghost that was previously forced back by Xiao Chen's sword shouted coldly, "Another human has come. Good, very good. Today is a great harvest." "Great harvest? Let's talk about it after you finish eating," Xiao Chen replied indifferently when he heard the heavenly ghost's words. Without waiting for the heavenly ghost to reply, Xiao Chen took the initiative to attack. With a move of his feet, he immediately attacked the heavenly ghost. Just as Xiao Chen attacked, a loud shout sounded from his mouth. "Run." These words were clearly said for Mu Feng to hear. When he heard Xiao Chen's shout, Mu Feng turned around and ran without hesitation. Seeing this, the heavenly ghost that was fighting fiercely with Xiao Chen also shouted angrily, "Stop him." He ordered his spirit-reading ghosts to stop Mu Feng. But how could Xiao Chen let them have their way? He forced the heavenly ghost back with a slash of his sword and immediately charged into the group of spirit-reading ghosts and began a massacre. The spirit-reading ghosts that were at the earth mirror level were like ants in front of Xiao Chen. Only the heavenly ghost could contend with Xiao Chen. After blocking the heavenly ghost and the spirit-reading ghosts for Mu Feng took advantage of this opportunity to run away without looking back. Soon, he disappeared from sight. Don't think that Mu Feng was disloyal. If Mu Feng didn't listen to Xiao Chen's command or chose to stay because he was worried about Xiao Chen, the two of them would once again be in a desperate situation. Faced with the current situation, the only way was to let Mu Feng escape first while Xiao Chen looked for an opportunity to break out of the encirclement. Only then would they have a chance to escape. Xiao Chen was obviously more agile and had no scruples if he was alone. Seeing that Mu Feng had already run far away, Xiao Chen felt relieved. He then looked at the earth mirror reading ghosts around him and said with a smile, "Let's collect some interest before we leave." As he spoke, Xiao Chen pointed out several times with his fingers. The Chun Jun sword finger was displayed, and a golden sword aura whizzed past, killing two spirit-reading ghosts at earth mirror level right away. What surprised Xiao Chen was that one of the spirit-reading ghosts had a seed of will of the Great Path in their bodies. He laughed heartily and kept the Tao Force seed in his storage ring. At the same time, the heavenly ghost also rushed over. He could tell that Xiao Chen's strength was far superior to Mu Feng's. This human was very dangerous and his subordinates were no match for him. Chapter 254. This heavenly ghost also joined the battle. At the same time, the other heavenly ghosts in the Night Eclipse tribe also noticed Xiao Chen's powerful combat strength. Mu Feng's appearance didn't alarm the other heavenly ghosts in the Night Eclipse tribe because one heavenly ghost was enough to suppress Mu Feng. But now, it was different. Xiao Chen's combat strength had obviously surpassed that of a heavenly ghost. One heavenly ghost alone couldn't possibly be a match for Xiao Chen. Therefore, the other heavenly ghosts also rushed here. They sensed that there were no less than 10 heavenly ghosts rushing here. At the same time, more heavenly ghosts appeared from the depths of the Night Eclipse tribe. They couldn't delay any longer and needed to escape as soon as possible. But before they left, there was one more thing to do, and that was to kill a heavenly ghost for fun. Xiao Chen locked his gaze on the heavenly ghost in front of him. The heavenly ghost's heart skipped a beat when Xiao Chen locked his gaze on it. An instinctive fear instantly shrouded its entire body. It could clearly feel from Xiao Chen's gaze that the human before it wanted to kill it. He was already surrounded, and the other heavenly ghosts of the Night Eclipse tribe were rushing here. Under such circumstances, this human still wanted to kill him? This was absolutely ridiculous, but the heavenly ghost's intuition told him that this wasn't ridiculous. Xiao Chen had the ability to kill him, and it was an instant kill. He retreated almost instinctively, but it was obviously too late to retreat now. With a sneer on his face, Xiao Chen pointed his finger and shouted softly, "Tai Yi sword finger." Xiao Chen didn't hold back in this attack. A sword ray as thick as a mountain shot out from Xiao Chen's finger and instantly engulfed the heavenly ghost. In order to kill this heavenly ghost in one blow, this attack consumed more than half of Xiao Chen's spiritual power. With such a price to pay, its power naturally couldn't be underestimated. Ah! Blood-curdling screeches erupted from the thick blade radiance. Not only that sky ghost, but also a dozen earth mirror-reading ghosts were also caught in the blast. After exterminating a heavenly ghost and a total of 13 earth mirror-reading ghosts with a single finger, the sword radiance dissipated and 6 Dao insight seeds floated in front of Xiao Chen. With a wave of his hand, Xiao Chen kept the 6 Dao insight seeds into his pouch and turned to leave. Xiao Chen was about to escape. The mirror-reading ghost couldn't stop him at all. Not far away, the other heavenly ghosts, who had witnessed Xiao Chen kill a heavenly ghost with a single strike, were also shocked. It wasn't until Xiao Chen had broken out of the encirclement that the heavenly ghosts who had rushed over snapped out of their daze. Immediately they bellowed, "Human, where do you think you're going?" More than a dozen heavenly ghosts rushed toward Xiao Chen, but unfortunately, Xiao Chen had already broken out of their encirclement. His figure transformed into a blade ray and fled into the distance. Not only did he save Mu Feng, but he also killed as many as 25 earth mirror-reading ghosts and one heavenly ghost by himself. Watching Xiao Chen leave, the dozen heavenly ghosts snarled with gloomy expressions. "Damn human! This human is so strong. He actually killed a heavenly ghost with a single strike. In my opinion, an attack like that consumes a lot of energy. I'm sure he can't perform it continuously." No matter what, the humans who entered the 5 Elemental Dao Palace this time can't be underestimated. Although the number is much smaller than before, the quality has improved a lot. Now that Sir Chief is in the critical period of his breakthrough, we can't afford to make any mistakes. It's better for us to increase the strength of our guards. Yes, we'll do as you say. We'll wait for Sir Chief to come out of seclusion. The chief of the Night Eclipse tribe did not pursue Xiao Chen. Now that he had reached the critical period of his breakthrough, he would enter the Ghost King realm. With a Ghost King, the Night Eclipse tribe would no longer need to hide in the periphery. They could truly set foot in the core area of the 5 Elemental Dao Palace and compete for territory with the truly large tribes. Due to the Night Eclipse tribe's leader's breakthrough, the tribe did not hunt humans. Under normal circumstances, every time the Taoist Palace of 5 Elements opened and humans from the heavenly Qin continent entered the Taoist Palace of 5 Elements, large ghost remembrance tribes like the Night Eclipse tribe would take the initiative to hunt humans. This time, the Night Eclipse tribe had not done so. The reason was that their chief was in the critical period of his breakthrough, and they could not afford to make any mistake. Compared to hunting humans, breaking through to the Ghost King realm was obviously more important to the Night Eclipse tribe. After rushing out of the Night Eclipse tribe's territory and leaving the plains, Xiao Chen directly rushed into the forest. He could no longer feel the aura of the sky ghost. Only then did Xiao Chen let out a sigh of relief. With Xiao Chen's strength, it would not be a problem for him to face one heavenly ghost alone. He could even fight 2 heavenly ghosts. However, if he were to be surrounded by more than a dozen heavenly ghosts, it would be dangerous. Furthermore, the Night Eaters had more than just a dozen heavenly ghosts, there were hundreds of them. As such, Shao Chun had never thought of facing the Night Eaters head-on. Of course, he would consider a sneak attack. He was safe for the time being. Mu Feng should have met up with Duo Fu and the others. Walking through the forest, Shao Chun rushed toward the valley where the Duo Fu tribe was located. While Shao Chun was rushing, he inadvertently passed by a small lake. The lake water was clear, but at this moment there was a young girl bathing in the lake. It was a complete coincidence that he appeared there. When Shao Chun appeared beside the lake, the young girl in the lake caught sight of Shao Chun. Her face immediately flushed red, and she let out an earth-shaking scream. He felt helpless. Is this considered peeping? But in all honesty, he did not do it on purpose. Looking at the blushing young girl who was hiding in the water, Shao Chun rubbed his nose in embarrassment. He Lian, I really did not do it on purpose. Go ahead and bathe. I will wait for you over there. Shao Chun recognized the young girl. Her name was He Lian. They had first met in the city of the King of Medicine. She was a Baijian peak genius and a disciple of 9 Firmaments Palace. It was a completely coincidental encounter. Hearing Shao Chun's words, He Lian did not respond. As for Shao Chun, he quickly retreated to a spot not far away and casually leaned against a large tree. They did not have to wait for long. After just over 100 breaths worth of time, He Lian had put on her clothes and was standing before Shao Chun. Looking at He Lian, who was still blushing, Shao Chun explained, I really did not see anything. Hearing Shao Chun's explanation, He Lian lowered her head and did not reply. After that, amid the awkwardness, Shao Chun led He Lian towards the Duo Fu tribe. However, along the way, Shao Chun casually asked, By the way, He Lian, why is there a butterfly birthmark on your waist? Shao Chun, you dare say you did not see anything? Hearing Shao Chun's words, He Lian bellowed. Chapter 255. He didn't expect to bump into He Lian on the way back. With this, Shao Chun had found 2 sky prides. On the way back to the Duo Fu tribe, as Shao Chun expected, Mu Feng had returned safely. Mu Feng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Shao Chun was fine. Duo Fu and the rest of the spirit reader ghosts knelt before Shao Chun respectfully. Father, seeing the spirit reader ghosts kneeling before Shao Chun and calling him father, He Lian looked at Shao Chun strangely. Why would the spirit reader ghosts call Shao Chun father? Seeing He Lian's confusion, Shao Chun didn't have the energy to explain. He simply said, These spirit reader ghosts are crazy. They call anyone father whenever they see them. Ignore them. Unable to explain, Shao Chun brought Mu Feng and He Lian to his residence. The 3 of them sat down. Shao Chun sat at the head of the table, while Mu Feng and He Lian sat below Shao Chun. According to the 2 of them, there was no one around them after they were teleported into the 5 Elements Palace. Of course, Mu Feng was an exception. Shao Chun's mouth twitched when he found out that Mu Feng had gone to the Sang Ping tribe and the other 2 spirit reader tribes that he had annihilated. Shao Chun finally understood why Mu Feng had recklessly rushed to the Night Eclipse tribe. Perhaps to Mu Feng, the spirit reader ghosts were ant. That was why he had dared to challenge the Night Eclipse tribe alone. Part of the reason was because of him. However, Shao Chun didn't mention it. He pretended to look at Mu Feng. Shao Chun said, Mu Feng, the spirit reader ghosts aren't as simple as you think. You can't be reckless in the future. King Bewitching Sword is right. Mu Feng will remember that. Mu Feng nodded respectfully when he heard Shao Chun's words. The 2 of them recounted their experiences over the past few days. Shao Chun then instructed Mu Feng and He Lian to find the other sky prides as soon as possible. Duo Fu and the rest would do their best to help. Hearing Shao Chun's order, the 2 nodded respectfully. Now that he had found the 2 sky prides, there were many things that Shao Chun could instruct them to do. Of course, the two of them would be searching for other sky prides, so they wouldn't have the time to hunt Nian Gui. However, Xiao Chen promised that he would compensate them. There was no need for the two of them to hunt down Taoist ghosts. The most important thing now was to find more supreme talent. Moreover, Xiao Chen alone was enough to deal with some small tribes of Taoist ghosts as long as there were no heavenly ghosts. However, attacking these small tribes was ultimately just a small matter. Xiao Chen's ultimate goal was still the nocturnal tribe. It was a large tribe made up of thousands of night eaters. If they could wipe out the night eaters, the harvest would probably be more than destroying 100 small tribes. According to Xiao Chen's guess, the Earth Mirror Taoist ghosts might contain Tao thought seeds in their bodies, and the heavenly ghosts would definitely have Tao thought seeds in their bodies. In other words, if they could wipe out the night eaters, the hundreds of heavenly ghosts would be equivalent to hundreds of Tao thought seeds. In addition to the large number of Earth Mirror Taoist ghosts, the number of Tao thought seeds would definitely be in the thousands. However, wiping out the night eaters wasn't an easy task. First, Xiao Chen had to increase his own strength. In addition, the strength of peerless sky prides and top sky prides like Mu Feng and He Lian also had to increase as soon as possible. At the very least, they had to reach the level where they could kill heavenly ghosts before attacking the night eaters. It was obviously impossible to make everyone break through to the level where they could fight heavenly ghosts in a short period of time. However, it was possible in the Five Elements Tao Palace. Of course, the prerequisite was that there were enough Tao thought seeds. As long as there were enough Tao thought seeds, everyone could make breakthroughs along the way. With the dense spiritual energy of the Five Elements Tao Palace, it was completely possible. With a rough plan in mind, Xiao Chen began to work hard in the following days. One by one, small night eaters' tribes were wiped out by Xiao Chen. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. All the small night eaters' tribes in the area had been wiped out. There were only 5 night eaters' tribes left. Apart from the night eaters' tribe, the other 4 were medium-sized tribes with heavenly ghosts overseeing them. Xiao Chen didn't make a move on them for the time being. At the same time, Xiao Chen had collected over 100 Tao thought seeds after this hunt. He had gathered a total of 8 sets of Tao thought seeds of the 5 elements. At the same time, under the guidance of Mu Feng and He Lian, Xiao Chen found another 13 sky prides in half a month. Among them, there were 5 peerless sky prides and 8 top sky prides. 2 of them were even Xiao Chen's retainers. With his retainers by his side, Xiao Chen could finally refine the Tao thought seeds without worry. He let the 2 of them stand guard for him. Xiao Chen sat cross-legged in the wooden house and swallowed the 5 Tao thought seed. Xiao Chen began the second imparting of the heavenly way. It felt the same as the first imparting of the heavenly way. After the second imparting of the heavenly way, Xiao Chen had a feeling that if he wanted to break through to the profound Earth Mirror realm, he would be able to do so as long as he had enough spiritual energy in his body. The barrier to breaking through to the profound Earth Mirror realm had been broken. Xiao Chen was overjoyed. Subsequently, Xiao Chen carried out 3 imparting of the heavenly way. After consuming 4 sets of Tao thought seeds of the 5 elements, Xiao Chen stopped. At the same time, Xiao Chen's barrier had been broken through to the minor perfection of the Earth Mirror realm. Within a short period of time, Xiao Chen could break through 2 levels without any hindrance and directly enter the minor perfection of the Earth Mirror realm. There were still 4 sets of Tao thought seeds of the 5 elements left. Xiao Chen didn't continue refining them. He gave 1 set to his 2 retainers, Mu Feng and He Lian. After receiving the 5 Tao thought seeds of the 5 elements from Xiao Chen, the 4 of them were extremely excited. It had been a month since they entered the Tao Palace of the 5 elements. This was the first time the 4 of them had felt the Tao thought seeds and the magic of the imparting of the heavenly way. Xiao Chen personally guarded the 4 of them for 2 hours. When the 4 of them woke up from the imparting of the heavenly way, they couldn't help but reveal a look of excitement on their faces. After this imparting of the heavenly way, the barrier to the minor perfection of the earth mirror realm had been completely broken. They could easily break through to the minor perfection of the earth mirror realm in a short period of time. Seeing the excitement in the four of them, Shao Chun smiled and said, "Get ready to break through as soon as possible. In a few days, I want to make a move on some medium-sized ghost whispering tribes." The small ghost whispering tribe had been wiped out by Shao Chun alone. Now there were only 4 medium-sized tribes and 1 large tribe left in this area. For the time being, they weren't a match for the Night Food tribe. Shao Chun planned to destroy the 4 medium-sized tribes first. In this way, he would probably obtain a lot of Tao Thought seeds and make preparations to attack the Night Food tribe. However, with the current manpower, it was obviously not enough to deal with the Night Food tribe. Chapter 256. He was ready to attack the remaining 4 middle-sized tribes. Mu Feng and the other 3 nodded excitedly when they heard Shao Chun's words. For such a long time, their mission was to look for their companions. As for killing the mind-reading ghosts, it was mostly done by Shao Chun alone. Now that they were finally going to join the hunt, they were naturally excited. In the next few days, Shao Chun didn't do much. Instead, he started to cultivate in seclusion. With the help of the Dan beads and the dense spiritual qi in the 5 Elements Palace, Shao Chun's cultivation level soared like a rocket. After 5 times of being taught by the heavenly Tao, Shao Chun didn't need to break through to the minor completion of the earth clear mirror anymore. Now, Shao Chun only needed to absorb the spiritual qi and he would be able to break through to the next level. Shao Chun swallowed the Dan beads made by the Pill Cloud Dominator one after another. The Dan beads melted on their own when they entered Shao Chun's body. A stream of pure spiritual qi started to move inside Shao Chun's body. In just 3 days, Shao Chun had broken through from the Earth Mirror Realm to the great accomplishment of the Earth Mirror Realm. Then, it took him another 5 days to break through from the great accomplishment of the Earth Mirror Realm to the small accomplishment of the Earth Mirror Realm. In just 8 days, Shao Chun broke through 2 minor levels. If he wasn't in the 5 Elements Palace, Shao Chun wouldn't be able to do it even with his talent. It was indeed worthy of being one of the heavenly Chun continent's 5 great miracles. The Tao Intense seeds in the 5 Elements Tao Palace were simply a gift from the heavens. If one had enough Tao Intense seeds, even a pig could skyrocket and become a powerhouse. Of course, Shao Chun didn't know that although the seeds of Tao were powerful, they were only useful for cultivators below the Tao Querying Realm. The Tao Querying Realm was a watershed for cultivators. To put it bluntly, cultivators below the Tao Querying Realm were only practicing martial art. Cultivators above the Tao Querying Realm were starting to get in touch with Tao. Tao was above martial arts, or it could be said that martial arts were just the beginning of Tao, the tip of the iceberg. Once one began to come into contact with the level of Tao, the Tao Intense seed would be completely useless. Thus, relying on the Tao Intense seed, the highest level one could reach was the celestial tier. Any further and it would be useless. Of course, this was still far from Shao Chun. Currently, Shao Chun was only at the minor perfection of the earthly mirror realm. By relying on the Tao Insight seed, he could still break through to the heaven realm. Once he entered the heaven realm, Shao Chun's combat strength would undergo another qualitative leap. He used 8 days to break through 2 minor realms consecutively. Moreover, because he used the Tao Intense seed to break through, his foundation did not suffer any damage and was still extremely stable. On the 9th day, when Shao Chun chose to come out of seclusion, Mu Feng and the other 3 had already broken through to the small success stage of the Earth Clear Mirror Realm. Seeing the 4 of them break through, the other Sky Prides were extremely envious. However, there was nothing they could do. The number of Tao Force seeds was not enough to support so many Sky Prides, so they could only use them in batches. After gathering the 13 Sky Prides, Shao Chun told them his plan. This time, Shao Chun was going to attack the 4 large and medium-sized tribes. According to the information Shao Chun had, The weakest of the 4 large and medium-sized tribes was guarded by 1 heavenly ghost, while the strongest had a total of 10 heavenly ghosts. They were very powerful. Therefore, in order to deal with the 4 large and medium-sized tribes, the only way was to break through them one by one and start with the weakest one. No one present had any objections to Xiao Chen's plan. They all knew that among the people present, only Xiao Chen could kill a heavenly ghost. Although Mu Feng and the other 3 had broken through to the small success stage of the Earth Clear Mirror Realm, they still did not have the strength to kill a heavenly ghost. At most, they could hold it back for a while. With the decision made, Xiao Chen led the Sky Prides away from the Plenty Fortune tribe on the same day and rushed to the weakest central tribe. There were no twists and turns in the battle. Under Xiao Chen's leadership, the middle-sized tribe was flattened as expected. After this battle, the Sky Prides obtained a total of 60 Dao Insight Seed. Everyone was extremely excited about such a bountiful harvest. Xiao Chen was also very generous. After collecting the 60 Dao Insight Seeds and 6 sets of the 5 Elemental Dao Insight Seeds, he rewarded them to the 6 Sky Pride. He did not keep any for himself because the most urgent thing now was to improve their overall strength. These Sky Prides were indeed too weak when facing the spirit-reading ghost. They could only kill the Earth Clear Mirror Spirit with great difficulty. If they were to encounter a heavenly ghost, they would be helpless. Therefore, Xiao Chen had to give these Sky Prides the strength to kill the heavenly ghost as soon as possible. He gave the 6 Sky Prides 5 days to make a breakthrough in their cultivation. 5 days later, the 6 of them successfully broke through to the Earth Clear Mirror Realm. As a result, among the 13 Sky Prides who followed Xiao Chen, 10 of them had already experienced the Heavenly Tao's impartation and made a breakthrough in their cultivation. Only 3 remained. Their overall strength had improved once again. Subsequently, Xiao Chen prepared to attack the second middle-sized tribe. However, this time, it was beyond Xiao Chen's expectations. This tribe actually joined forces with another middle-sized tribe, and the number of heavenly ghosts reached 5. 5 heavenly ghosts overseeing the tribe was beyond Xiao Chen's expectations. However, after a bloody battle, Xiao Chen killed the 5 heavenly ghosts on his own and wiped out the 2 middle-sized spirit-reading ghost tribes in one fell swoop. After killing 5 heavenly ghosts on his own, Xiao Chen's battle prowess had increased tremendously in the short span of a month since he entered the 5 Elemental Dao Palace. Mu Feng and the other Sky Prides were already numb to this. They no longer had the slightest desire to compete against the 10 great Sky Prides. They only wished to keep up with the 10 great Sky Prides. However, it seemed that just keeping up with the 10 great Sky Prides was no longer that easy. The gap between them was widening step by step. Just like now, all the Sky Prides were unable to kill a heavenly ghost in a one-on-one situation. However, Xiao Chen was able to kill 5 heavenly ghosts in a one-on-one situation. It was easy to imagine how great the gap between them was. After destroying 2 middle-sized tribes in a row, the harvest this time was even more bountiful. He obtained over 100 Dao Insight Seeds in one go. A total of 10 sets of 5 Elemental Dao Insight Seeds were gathered. Xiao Chen took out 3 sets and gave them to the 3 Sky Prides who had yet to experience the impartation of the Heavenly Dao. As for the remaining 7 sets, Xiao Chen kept them for himself to attempt to break through to the great circle of the Earth Spire realm. No one felt that there was a problem with Xiao Chen's method. After all, Xiao Chen's role had always been crucial. Moreover, Xiao Chen could be said to have single-handedly turned the tide in every battle. Therefore, the distribution of the Dao Insight Seeds was completely up to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen chose to go into seclusion again. This time, he planned to break through to the great circle of the Earth Spire realm. Chapter 257. After leaving behind 7 sets of 5 Elemental Dao Will Seeds, Xiao Chen went into seclusion again. This time, he wanted to break through to the great circle of the Earth Mirror Realm in one fell swoop. Then, he would prepare to break through to the Sky Realm. The celestial realm was already the limit of the human body. Every aspect of the body had already been tempered to the extreme, and this was also the preparation for the future contact with the Tao. Only by tempering the body to the extreme could one be qualified to touch the threshold of the Tao, and then become a true Tao-seeking realm expert. One set of 5 elemental Tao will seeds after another were swallowed by Shao Qin. After 14 hours, after refining 7 sets of 5 elemental Tao will seeds, Shao Qin finally broke through the barrier to the great circle of the Earth Mirror realm. Shao Qin had only used 6 sets of Tao thought seeds of the 5 elements to rush all the way from the initial success of the Earth Mirror realm to the small completion of the Earth Mirror realm. Now, he had used up 7 sets of Tao thought seeds just to break through the realm barrier. This also proved that in order to use the Tao thought seeds to make a breakthrough, the more Tao thought seeds one would need. It was hard to imagine how many Tao thought seeds one would need to make a breakthrough to the celestial being realm. After all, the barrier of a big realm was far from the barrier of a small realm. In particular, one's comprehension of martial arts had an essential change. Shao Qin felt a little helpless, but he quickly suppressed these negative emotions. Now wasn't the time to think about these things. Besides, he was already in the 5 elemental Tao Palace. No matter how difficult it was, he had to find an opportunity to break through to the sky realm. Otherwise, it would be a waste of this opportunity. After 5 days, Shao Qin successfully broke through to the great circle of the Earth Mirror realm. Now, he could finally make a move on the last middle-sized tribe. This last middle-sized tribe was called the Kuching tribe. Its leader, Kuching, was known as the strongest heavenly ghost. Moreover, the entire Kuching tribe had a total of 10 heavenly ghosts. Its strength had already surpassed the previous 3 middle-sized tribes combined. Hearing that Shao Qin was going to make a move on the Kuching tribe, Mu Feng and the other Sky Prides acted out of character this time. They did not choose to support him. King Bewitching Sword, this Kuching tribe is not simple. With our current strength, I'm afraid it will be difficult to defeat them. That's right. The Kuching tribe is said to have 10 heavenly ghosts, and their leader Kuching is known as the strongest heavenly ghost. On our side, only King Bewitching King can kill heavenly ghosts. Isn't it too risky to rashly attack the Kuching tribe? Proud King Bewitching Sword, why don't we find the other proud kings first, and then make a move on the Kuching tribe after we meet up? But the 10 heavenly ghosts would be troublesome. The 10 heavenly ghosts were troublesome, and the heavenly ghosts were. Even if Mu Feng and the other 4 peerless Sky Prides were to restrain the 5 heavenly ghosts, they would only be able to restrain them. Moreover, without Mu Feng and the other 4 peerless Sky Prides, the other elite Sky Prides would not be able to stop the Kuching tribe's Earth Mirror ghost. In the end, Shao Qin had to have the strength to kill 10 heavenly ghosts in order to attack the Kuching tribe. Otherwise, if Shao Qin was defeated or killed, everyone would die. At first glance, the chances of victory were very slim. Faced with the Sky Pride's dissuasion, Shao Qin was not angry. Everyone had their own reasons. However, there was one thing that they were wrong about. They had underestimated Shao Qin's combat strength. 1 against 10. Who said he couldn't win? As long as Shao Qin could kill the 10 heavenly ghosts of the Kuching tribe, there would be no change in the outcome of the battle. They would win without a doubt. Shao Qin raised his hand and gestured for everyone to be quiet. Then, he said indifferently, "Everyone, there is no need to worry about this battle. Leave the heavenly ghosts to me. The rest will be dealt with by you. As long as everyone does their job, this battle will be won." He had no intention of giving up. Seeing that Shao Qin had spoken, although Mu Feng and the others were still worried, they did not say anything more. If they continued, they were afraid that Shao Qin would be displeased. After deciding to attack the Kuching tribe, Shao Qin led the Sky Prides away from the Duofu tribe. Seeing Shao Qin and the others leave, Duofu looked at Shao Qin's back with a look of horror. He really did not expect that Xiao Chun would dare to attack the Kuching tribe with such a small number of people. The Kuching tribe was the second largest tribe in this area. Although it was much weaker than the Nocturnal tribe, it was definitely not to be underestimated. Father is really bold. Duofu sighed softly and muttered to himself. Even Duofu did not have confidence in this battle. When Xiao Chun and the others arrived outside the Kuching tribe, Xiao Chun looked at the Sky Prides, who also did not have a good expression, and said calmly, "I only have one request. Just do your job well and don't worry about anything else. This battle will be won without a doubt." His words were filled with confidence. Hearing this, Mu Feng and the other Sky Prides nodded speechlessly. They still did not know where Xiao Chen's confidence came from. One should know that when facing the Kuching tribe's heavenly ghosts, no one could help Xiao Chen. Everything depended on Xiao Chen. One could only imagine the difficulty of facing the encirclement of 10 heavenly ghosts alone. Even if he was a king of pride, wasn't it a little too difficult? Not to mention, there was also the Kuching tribe, a peak heavenly ghost. In response to everyone's doubts, Xiao Chen did not explain much. As soon as he finished speaking, nearly 1,000 mind-reading ghosts rushed out from the Kuching tribe. Looking at the large number of mind-reading ghosts, everyone's heart sank again. This time it was really over. Facing such a large number of mind-reading ghosts, the Sky Prides would not be able to free up their hands to support Xiao Chen. In fact, they might even need Xiao Chen's support. Facing nearly 1,000 mind-reading ghosts, Xiao Chen did not change his expression at all. At the same time, the 10 heavenly ghosts led by Kuching slowly walked out and arrived in front of Xiao Chen. Kuching sneered. "Haha, you're the human who has been in the limelight recently and destroyed dozens of tribes?" Hearing Kuching's words, Xiao Chen did not answer. Seeing this, Kuching did not mind and continued with a sinister smile. "Do you know why I have never taken the initiative to look for you? Because I know you will come to me on your own accord. Destroying dozens of tribes must have inflated your confidence. Therefore, you think you can destroy my Kuching tribe. Unfortunately, my Kuching tribe is not comparable to those ant. Today, I can obtain 14 hearts without any effort. With your hearts, I will definitely be able to break through to the half-step Ghost King realm." Haha. Kuching laughed coldly. Hearing Kuching's sneer, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Noisy." Then, he slashed out with his sword and took the initiative to attack. Chapter 258. Seeing this, Kuching's face darkened. "You're courting death." Then, he took the initiative to meet the attack. The other 9 heavenly ghosts beside him also attacked. 1 man against 10 ghosts. Xiao Chen was already engaged in a fierce battle with 10 heavenly ghosts. At the same time, the many Di-Ming mirror cultivators of the Kuching tribe, as well as the spirit-reading ghosts, rushed toward Mu Feng and the other prodigies. The prodigies did not hold back as the battle broke out. Although they did not have much confidence in this battle, since the battle had already begun, they naturally could not allow themselves to be captured without putting up a fight. Therefore, Mu Feng and the others mustered up all their strength to fight against the numerous mind ghost. It had to be said that after a period of improvement, Mu Feng and the others' battle strength had also improved significantly. The Earth Mirror level mind ghost could not last long against them. Now, it was no longer as difficult for Mu Feng and the others to kill the Earth Mirror level mind ghost as before. However, even though their strength had improved, the number of mind ghosts in the Kuching tribe was too many. There were nearly 1,000 of them. Facing such a large number, Mu Feng and the others were undoubtedly at a disadvantage. The situation was more dangerous than they had imagined. The Kuching tribe was stronger than they had imagined. In the face of the current situation, the demand for Xiao Chen was even higher. This was because not only could Mu Feng and the others not support Xiao Chen, but they also needed Xiao Chen's support. In other words, Xiao Chen had to kill the 10 heavenly ghosts, including Kuching, in the shortest time possible and then support Mu Feng and the others. Otherwise, Mu Feng and the others would not be able to hold on for long under the siege of so many mind ghosts. The situation was worse than they had imagined. Xiao Chen understood this, but he did not change his expression too much. He fought fiercely with the 10 heavenly ghosts as if victory was already in his grasp. Kuching sneered as he watched Xiao Chen constantly dodging. "How is it, human? Now you know how foolish your decision was." In Kuching's view, Xiao Chen was courting death by fighting 10 enemies alone. The combat effectiveness of the heavenly ghost was stronger than that of an ordinary human warrior in the celestial realm, but Xiao Chen dared to fight 10 enemies alone. In the face of Kuching's sneer, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "You think it's stupid, but I don't think so. It's just 10 heavenly ghosts. If they can't even deal with you, how can they deal with the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe?" "Deal with the Night Eater tribe? Haha, what an idiot! You want to deal with the Nocturnal tribe? Talk if you can survive today." With a loud laugh, Kuching tried to grab Xiao Chen with his claws. Seeing this, Xiao Chen thrust out his red-edged sword fiercely and collided with Kuching's sharp claws. She was indeed much stronger than the average heavenly ghost. It was no wonder that Kuching was known as the strongest heavenly ghost. However, if that was all, it was still not enough. After blocking Kuching's attack with his sword, Xiao Chen took advantage of the situation and pointed his finger. He performed the Chun Jun sword finger and a golden sword ray shot toward a heavenly ghost on his right. Since he dared to take the initiative to come to the Kuching tribe, how could Xiao Chen not have some confidence? Others might not know about his progress in the past half a month, but Xiao Chen was very clear about it. From the initial achievement of the Earth Realm to the great perfection of the Earth Realm, Xiao Chen's combat effectiveness had also increased by several levels. Never underestimate the King of Jiao. Both of them had made a breakthrough, but no one knew what kind of earth-shaking changes the King of Jiao's combat effectiveness would take place after making a breakthrough. This was the case for Xiao Chen. The breakthrough in cultivation was only superficial, but the breakthrough in combat effectiveness was truly shocking. Compared to half a month ago when he killed the heavenly ghost outside the Night Eclipse tribe, Xiao Chen no longer needed to perform a killing move like the Tai sword finger to kill a heavenly ghost. A simple Chun Jun sword finger was enough. The golden sword ray seemed to cut through space and shot toward the heavenly ghost. The heavenly ghost had no time to react. While it was still in a daze, the sword ray had already penetrated its glabella. He killed a heavenly ghost with a single finger. Seeing this, Kuching's laughter came to an abrupt end. He stared dumbfounded at the heavenly ghost that Xiao Chen had killed. How was this possible? This was a heavenly ghost. How could it be killed by a human with a single finger? Ignoring Kuching's shock, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "As I said, it's just 10 heavenly ghosts. It won't change anything." Without waiting for Kuching's reply, Xiao Chen slashed out with his sword. Wherever the blade passed, another heavenly ghost was split in half. In the face of Xiao Chen's sword chi, the heavenly ghost's tough skin was as fragile as paper. Xiao Chen's sword chi contained a faint trace of intent. In other words, Xiao Chen's sword chi had already begun to transform in the direction of sword intent. An earth-clear mirror realm cultivator, a young man in his early 20s, had actually touched the threshold of sword intent. Although he hadn't really taken that step yet, this was already enough to shock people. One must know that the older generation of sword cultivators like Song Xian, Song Yun and Song Long had immersed themselves in the way of the sword for hundreds of years, but they had only grasped the basics of sword intent. With the addition of a trace of sword intent, Xiao Chen's sword chi became sharper and sharper. Dealing with the heavenly ghosts was like chopping melons and vegetables. The battle had only begun for a short period of time, but Xiao Chen had already killed 2 heavenly ghosts. Such a scene was completely beyond Kuching's expectations. He never thought that a human could be so strong. It wasn't that Kuching hadn't dealt with humans before. Every few years, there would be humans entering the Five Elements Dao Palace from the Tiantian continent. But among so many humans, Kuching had never met anyone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Shao Chen. Kuching's face changed dramatically and he no longer had the confidence he had before. Shao Chen's powerful strength made Kuching feel extreme danger. Without hesitation, Kuching immediately roared, "Kill this human for me." Upon hearing Kuching's roar, the remaining 8 heavenly ghosts, after being stunned for a moment, frantically attacked Shao Chen. They knew that today, either they would join forces to kill Shao Chen, or Shao Chen would slaughter them all with his sword. There was no third possibility. At the same time, as the strongest heavenly ghost, Kuching also took the lead and rushed towards Shao Chen. Seeing this, Shao Chen smiled coldly. Is there any use in struggling on the verge of death? 3 layers of waves, 1,000-layered wave. As soon as his voice fell, Shao Chen slashed out with his sword. The second layer of the 3 layers of waves, 1,000-layered waves, surged with spiritual power and rushed towards Kuching and the others like a monstrous wave. Moreover, there were countless sharp sword chi hidden in the monstrous wave. Once caught in the monstrous wave, these sword chi were enough to tear it to pieces in an instant. Chapter 259. After breaking through 3 small realms in a row, Shao Chen was able to display the second wave of the triple overlapping wave. The huge wave of spiritual power instantly engulfed Kuching and the other heavenly ghosts, and countless sharp sword chis continued to tear their bodies apart. Although the heavenly ghosts' bodies were extremely strong, under the devastation of Shao Chen's sword chis, several heavenly ghosts immediately spewed out blood mist, and their bodies were soon covered with wounds. Kuching and the others frantically rushed out of the huge wave. They all knew that if they were trapped in this huge wave, they would be killed by the endless sword chis sooner or later. Only by rushing out could they have a chance of survival. Kuching, who was the strongest, was the first to rush out of the huge wave, followed by 5 other heavenly ghosts. However, although they rushed out, they were still seriously injured. At the same time, the 3 heavenly ghosts who did not rush out of the huge wave were already on the verge of death. They no longer had the strength to resist the impact of the huge wave of spiritual power. Accompanied by a burst of screams, the 3 heavenly ghosts who did not succeed in rushing out of the huge wave of spiritual power were finally torn into pieces by the sword chis. In a short period of contact, Shao Chen had already killed 5 heavenly ghosts. This kind of combat power shocked Kuching, and he looked at Shao Chen with a trace of horror in his eyes. This human's combat power was completely beyond his expectations. He did not care about the trace of horror on Kuching's face. After killing 3 heavenly ghosts in one move, Shao Chen did not stop. He immediately rushed toward the nearest heavenly ghost. It was obvious that Mu Feng and the others could not resist the mirror-reading ghosts of the Kuching tribe. Because there were too many of them, Mu Feng and the others could not hold on for long. Therefore, Shao Chen must kill Kuching and the other heavenly ghosts as soon as possible so that he could be free to support Mu Feng and the others. In the face of Shao Chen's attack, the heavenly ghost's face changed greatly, and he instinctively wanted to retreat. Seeing this, Shao Chen fiercely stabbed with the long sword in his hand. The sword light flashed and directly penetrated the heavenly ghost's forehead. He killed another one. Now, ordinary heavenly ghosts were no longer enough to deal with Shao Chen. There were only 4 heavenly ghosts left. Seeing this, Kuching shouted angrily and rushed toward Shao Chen again. He knew that they could only fight against Shao Chen if they joined forces. Gathering the remaining 4 heavenly ghosts to besiege Shao Chen again, Shao Chen didn't care. He deliberately avoided a head-on confrontation with Kuching. Shao Chen's primary goal was to kill the remaining 4 ordinary heavenly ghosts. Watching the heavenly ghosts being killed by Shao Chen, Kuching tried his best to stop him, but there was nothing he could do. In the end, all the heavenly ghosts were slaughtered by Shao Chen, leaving only Kuching standing alone in front of Shao Chen. Looking calmly at Kuching in front of him, Shao Chen shook off the blood on his sword and said softly, "Well, it's your turn now." For a long time, Shao Chen didn't fight Kuching head-on. Instead, he always aimed to kill the ordinary heavenly ghost. Now, all the ordinary heavenly ghosts had been killed by Shao Chen, and only Kuching was left. Compared to the ordinary heavenly ghosts, Kuching's strength was obviously much stronger. Hearing Shao Chen's words, Kuching didn't answer. At this time, Kuching calmed down from his anger. The tribe's heavenly ghosts had all died at the hands of Shao Chen. Facing Shao Chen in front of him, Kuching was extremely afraid. However, he also knew that there were now two paths in front of him. Either he killed Shao Chen himself or Shao Chen killed him. The battle between them was also related to the direction of the whole battle. If Shao Chen won, then he would be able to free himself to deal with the other thought ghost. Of course, the reverse was also true. If Shao Chen was defeated, then Kuching would also be able to free himself to deal with Mu Feng and the others. With a roar, Kuching took the initiative to attack. There was no way back. Even though he was very afraid of Shao Chen, Kuching could only choose to fight to the death. A pair of sharp claws emitted a faint red glow. His aura had been raised to the extreme, and he slashed down fiercely. Seeing this, Shao Chen blocked with his sword. Although he successfully blocked Kuching's attack, he was also knocked back a few steps. As expected of the strongest heavenly ghost, Kuching's battle strength was indeed extraordinary. It was precisely because of this that Shao Chen left him for last and dealt with the small fries first. After all, facing Kuching, Shao Chen had to go all out to have a chance of winning. After being forced back by Kuching's claw, Shao Chen stopped his body. He pointed his finger and displayed the Chun Jun sword finger. The golden sword light whizzed over. In response, Kuching slapped out with his claw and directly shattered the golden sword light. Obviously, the Chun Jun sword finger was not much of a threat to Kuching. However, Shao Chen did not seem to be aware of this problem at this time. He continued to display the Chun Jun sword finger. Rays of golden sword light madly shot toward Kuching. The sky was filled with sword shadows, but even so, the pure Jun sword finger was still unable to cause any harm to Kuching. Kuching shouted coldly, "What are you waiting for? Human, are you at your wits' end? This level of attack can't hurt me at all." It was impossible for the Chun Jun sword finger to hurt Kuching. Hearing this, Shao Chen smiled slightly and directly displayed the Dragon Transformation secret skill. With the Dragon Transformation secret skill, Shao Chen's aura continued to rise. Soon, it rose from the Earth-Clear Mirror Realm to the quintessential Saint Realm. With the support of the secret skill, Shao Chen's cultivation rose by a whole realm. At the same time, the power of the Chun Jun sword finger increased by a lot. Faced with the sudden increase in power of the Chun Jun sword finger, Kuching was caught off guard. A bloody hole immediately appeared on his body. This was just the beginning. The golden sword light that filled the sky continued to penetrate Kuching's body. In just a few breaths, Kuching was covered in blood. The previous continuous attacks were just to make Kuching think that the Chun Jun sword finger was no threat to him at all. It was because Kuching had let down his guard that Shao Chen was able to catch him off guard. Kuching was injured in an instant. This was just the beginning. Shao Chen naturally did not expect to kill Kuching with the Chun Jun sword finger alone. After seeing that Kuching was injured, Shao Chen did not stop and directly displayed his final killing move, the Tai sword finger. It was the most powerful attack that Shao Chen had mastered at the moment, and it was cast while he was in the state of the Dragon Transformation secret technique. It could be said that this attack was the most powerful attack that Shao Chen had so far. A thick beam of spiritual energy shot out and immediately engulfed Kuching. After being hit by the Tai sword finger, Kuching screamed continuously. His already injured body was even worse. He spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Under the powerful attack of the Tai sword finger, Kuching was blasted into pieces. Chapter 260. Shao Chun had successfully killed Kuching. Although Shao Chun had less than a tenth of his spiritual energy left, the morale of the other spirit-reading ghosts plummeted with Kuching's death. Even their own chief and a group of heavenly ghosts had been killed by Shao Chun. How could the remaining spirit-reading ghosts have the courage to continue fighting? Compared to the spirit-reading ghosts, Mu Feng and the others were extremely excited. In the beginning, no one was optimistic about Shao Chun. Who would have thought that Shao Chun would be able to kill all the heavenly ghosts of the Kuching tribe in such a short period of time? Such battle prowess was simply unacceptable to the Sky Prides. Shao Chun had only been in the Five Elements Tao Palace for a short month, but he had already grown to such a level. This time, the Sky Prides could be said to have witnessed Shao Chun's growth step by step with their own eyes. Therefore, this time, they could be said to have experienced the growth rate of the King of Geniuses. This was simply heaven-defying. Compared to the growth rate of the King of Geniuses, these Sky Prides were simply not worth mentioning. With Kuching's death, Shao Chun joined Mu Feng and the others. Although Shao Chun had expended a lot of his spiritual energy in the previous battle, dealing with ordinary spirit-reading ghosts of the Earth Mirror level was nothing to Shao Chun. Basically, he did not need to use any martial technique. Simple sword techniques were enough to easily kill these spirit-reading ghosts. With the death of all the heavenly ghosts and the addition of Shao Chun, the Kuching tribe quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Moreover, under Shao Chun's leadership, Mu Feng and the others' battle-intent soared. Under this situation, it did not take long for the spirit-reading ghosts of the Kuching tribe to be completely annihilated. Originally, they thought that it was impossible to destroy the Kuching tribe. However, due to Shao Chun's astonishing performance, they succeeded in the end. Moreover, no one died. Of course, there were many who were injured. Almost everyone was injured. They didn't care about their own injuries. After obtaining a complete victory, everyone immediately began to count the gains of this battle. After experiencing such a difficult battle, everyone was looking forward to exactly how many seeds of Tao thought they could obtain this time. After a round of inventory and statistics, the harvest from the battle at the Kuching tribe was indeed very rich. They had obtained nearly 200 Tao Force seeds, which was enough to gather 15 sets of 5 elements Tao Force seeds. With the joy of victory, everyone returned to the Duo Fu tribe. Seeing that Shao Chun and the others had returned, Duo Fu, as a Taoist ghost, found it hard to believe that Shao Chun had really wiped out the Kuching tribe. That was the second largest Taoist ghost tribe in this area, and now it had been wiped out by Shao Chun. After resting for a day, on the second day, Shao Chun distributed all the Tao Insight seeds he had obtained this time to Mu Feng and the other 4 supreme prodigies, so that they could raise their cultivation levels to the Earth Clear Mirror stage as soon as possible. He didn't use them himself because Shao Chun knew that even if he had 15 sets of 5 elements Tao Insight seeds to refine, he still wouldn't be able to break through the barrier of the celestial realm. The barrier of a major realm wasn't that easy to break through. According to Shao Chun's guess, he would need at least 30 sets of 5 elements Tao Insight seeds to break through the celestial realm. At the moment, he didn't have that many Tao Insight seeds to support his breakthrough to the celestial realm. Currently, almost all of the spirit-reading tribes in this region had been destroyed by Shao Chun and the rest, except for the Night Eclipse tribe. Next, Shao Chun was presented with 2 options. He could either directly attack the Night Eclipse tribe or travel to other regions to continue hunting spirit reading. After thinking about it, Shao Chun finally gave up on the idea of attacking the Night Eclipse tribe. Although the number of Tao Insight seeds he would obtain would be unimaginable if he were to attack the Night Eclipse tribe and win, the problem was that with Shao Chun and the rest's current strength, they were still no match for the Night Eclipse tribe. In the entire Night Eclipse tribe, there was not only a half-step Ghost King but also hundreds of heavenly ghosts. This force alone wasn't something that Shao Chun could deal with. First of all, Xiao Chen didn't have the slightest confidence to face the half-step Ghost King. Moreover, even if he could contend with the half-step Ghost King, what about the hundreds of heavenly ghosts that remained? Could he rely on Mu Feng and the rest to deal with them? Obviously, that was impossible. He still wasn't strong enough. Of course, that was also because everyone had been scattered. If the 10 prides were to gather together, in addition to the hundreds of sky prides, they should be able to annihilate the Night Eclipse tribe. Unfortunately, the current situation was that everyone was scattered. After giving up the idea of attacking the Night Eclipse tribe directly, Xiao Chen could only choose the second option. That was to leave this region and travel to other regions to continue hunting spirit reading. Once his strength had completely broken through to the celestial realm, he would then turn back to attack the Night Eclipse tribe. At the same time, he might be able to meet other people during this period. That way, he would have more confidence when dealing with the Night Eclipse tribe. Now that he had made his decision, all he had to do was wait for Mu Feng and the other 4 prodigies to break through before leaving. Xiao Chen didn't intend to waste any time in the 5 elemental Dao Palace. After all, he only had 3 months in total. After 3 months, he would be forcefully expelled from the 5 elemental Dao Palace. Therefore, he had to do his best to break through his cultivation during this period. After all, it was obviously impossible to break through so quickly after leaving the 5 elemental Dao Palace. After patiently waiting for 3 days, Mu Feng and the other 4 prodigies finally broke through to the greater success of the Earth Mirror realm. After that, Xiao Chen told everyone about his plan. No one had any objections because Xiao Chen's plan was the most reliable. They prepared to leave. This time, it was obvious that they wouldn't be able to return in a short period of time because Xiao Chen and the others wanted to leave this region directly. He asked Duo Fu. After all, Duo Fu was born and raised in the 5 elemental Dao Palace. Hence, Duo Fu clearly knew more about the 5 elemental Dao Palace than he did. Under Xiao Chen's inquiry, Duo Fu gave his own suggestion. According to Duo Fu, the region they were in was located in the southeast of the 5 elemental Dao Palace. It was called the Night Feeding Zone. If Xiao Chen wanted to obtain more Dao Force seeds in a short period of time, he could try going west. There was a region called the 100 Ghost Zone that was very suitable for Xiao Chen. It bordered the Night Feeding Zone, but its area was much larger than the Night Feeding Zone. Moreover, unlike the Night Feeding Zone where there was only one tribe, there were hundreds of ghost reading tribes in the 100 Ghost Zone. Moreover, the ghost reading tribes in the 100 Ghost Zone didn't have powerful existences like the half-step Ghost Kings and the Night Feeding tribes. It was precisely because there wasn't a true king tribe that the 100 Ghost Zone was more suitable for Xiao Chen. With Xiao Chen's current strength, he could go to the White Ghost Zone to collect Dao Force seeds faster and prepare for his breakthrough to the Celestial Realm. Chapter 261. Unlike the Nocturnal Feeding Zone, the 100 Ghosts Zone could be said to have 100 flowers blooming. Due to this, the area of the 100 Ghosts Zone was extremely huge. According to the rumors, the entire 100 Ghosts Zone was at least as big as 10 Nocturnal Feeding Zones. Moreover, there wasn't a single tribe as powerful as the Nocturnal Feeding Zones. After hearing Duo Fu's suggestion, Xiao Chen immediately decided to head to the 100 Ghosts Zone. That was indeed the most suitable place for him. The main reason why Xiao Chen wanted to leave the Nocturnal Feeding Zone was because he wasn't a match for the Nocturnal Feeding Zones. Moreover, the other tribes had all been annihilated by him, so he had to leave. However, the White Ghost Zone didn't have such a problem. In the 100 Ghost Zone there were countless Ghost Whisperer tribes, but none of them were as powerful as the Nocturnal Feeding Zones. In this case, Xiao Chen had too many choices. After making his decision, Xiao Chen immediately prepared to depart. Before he left, Duo Fu and the Ghost Whisperer tribes saw him off. Duo Fu and the other Ghost Whisperer tribes shouted as they watched Xiao Chen leave. Father, they were completely immune to being called father. Xiao Chen didn't feel reluctant to part with Duo Fu. Of course, it was the same for Duo Fu. To be honest, Duo Fu heaved a sigh of relief when Xiao Chen left. All along, Duo Fu had been so respectful because of Xiao Chen's strength. They headed towards the 100 Ghost Zone. As all the Ghost Whisperer tribes in the Nocturnal Feeding Zone had been annihilated by Xiao Chen, they didn't encounter any danger along the way. The Nocturnal Feeding Zone wasn't huge. In less than a day, Xiao Chen and the others set foot on a huge mountain range. This mountain range was also the boundary between the 100 Ghosts Zone and the Nocturnal Feeding Zone. Due to the existence of the Nocturnal Feeding Zones, the Ghost Whisperer tribes in the 100 Ghosts Zone had never dared to step into the Nocturnal Feeding Zone. After Xiao Chen and the others entered the mountain range, they didn't know that they had been targeted by the Ghost Whisperer tribes from the beginning. A heavenly ghost was hiding in the dark. When it saw Xiao Chen and the others enter the mountain range, it quickly disappeared into the dense forest. Unlike the Nocturnal Feeding Zone, the Ghost Chanting tribe in the 100 Ghost Zone had already started hunting humans. Of course, the peace in this region was due to the tribe. Before the opening of the Elemental Tao Palace, the tribe's leader went into seclusion to break through to the Ghost King realm. Because of this, the tribe didn't hunt humans until now. The Nocturnal Eclipse tribe didn't make a move, and the other Ghost Whisperer tribes weren't Xiao Chen's match at all. As a result, the Nocturnal Eclipse region fell into a strange silence. Unlike the Nocturnal Feeding Zone, the Ghost Zone had begun their operation the moment the 5 Elemental Tao Palace opened. They had launched a full-scale massacre of the humans in the Ghost Zone, and several Heaven's Prides had already been slain. Xiao Chen's group was completely unaware of this. As they walked through the dense rainforest, they did not let down their guard. Mu Feng asked curiously as he followed beside Xiao Chen. Didn't the 100 Ghosts Zone claim to have several hundred ghost remembrance tribes? Why is it so quiet? Could it be because we haven't ventured deep into the Ghost Zone? We're only at the edge, so there aren't any ghost remembrance tribes, one of the Heaven's Pride said. Everyone felt a little strange about the peace along the way. Hearing their conversation, Xiao Chen, who was walking at the front, smiled. Actually, we've been watched for a long time. Watched for a long time? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the expressions of the Heaven's Prides changed slightly. They said in disbelief, Demon Sword King, that can't be. We haven't even encountered a single ghost remembrance tribe. How could we be watched? The Heaven's Prides did not sense anything amiss, and Xiao Chen did not say much about it. Xiao Chen had already known of the heavenly ghost's existence when it was hiding in the dark. When the heavenly ghost left secretly, Xiao Chen did not make any moves. His purpose was to set up a long line to catch a big fish. He knew that the heavenly ghost must have gone back to report to the Ghost Remembrance tribe. Soon, the Ghost Remembrance tribe would surround them. They were already prepared. Just as Xiao Chen expected, a large group of Ghost Remembrance tribes surrounded them from all directions. From the dense forest, ugly Ghost Remembrance tribes appeared one after another. There were more than 200 of them, and the ones leading them were 5 heavenly ghosts. Such a lineup was indeed not weak. However, these Ghost Remembrance tribes obviously did not know that Xiao Chen's group had even wiped out the Kuqing tribe when they were in the Night Eater Zone. The lineup in front of them was much weaker than the Kuqing tribe. Because of this, even though they were surrounded, the group did not panic at all. Instead, they were all excited. In their eyes, these Ghost Remembrance tribes were Tao Force seeds. The 100 Ghost Zone is indeed a good place. We've just entered and we've already reaped such rewards. Mu Feng could not help but laugh out loud before the battle had even begun. Hearing Mu Feng's words, Xiao Chen smiled but did not say anything. Meanwhile, one of the 5 heavenly ghosts that blocked their way shouted, "Humans, are you from the Night Eater Zone? Haha, you must have escaped into the 100 Ghost Zone to avoid being hunted down by the Night Eater tribe, right? Unfortunately, even if you manage to escape from the Night Eater tribe, you will still die in the hands of the Polar Tribe. They thought that Xiao Chen's group had escaped here to avoid being hunted down by the Night Eater tribe. Obviously, these Ghost Remembrance tribes did not know that the leader of the Night Eater tribe was in seclusion. Hearing the Heavenly Ghost's words, Xiao Chen smiled faintly. The Polar Tribe? Was this the first Ghost Remembrance tribe that he had encountered after entering the 100 Ghost Zone? With a faint smile on his face, Xiao Chen said indifferently, I'm afraid it's still too early to say who will emerge victorious. Have you not considered that we might be the ones to kill you in the end and obtain the Tao 4 seeds in your bodies? Haha, wishful thinking. Attack. Kill these humans and the leader will definitely reward you handsomely. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the Heavenly Ghost immediately sneered. Then, with a loud shout, the Ghost Remembrance tribes charged at the group. Everyone was no stranger to the battle with the Ghost Remembrance tribes. Facing the attack of so many Ghost Remembrance tribes, Xiao Chen did not even have to say anything. Mu Feng and the rest consciously went up to meet them. As for Xiao Chen, he was naturally responsible for the 5 heavenly ghosts in front of him. As the fierce battle broke out, Xiao Chen slowly walked toward the 5 heavenly ghosts. To be honest, Xiao Chen did not care about the 5 heavenly ghosts. Chapter 262. Seeing Xiao Chen strolling towards them, the 5 heavenly ghosts were immediately enraged. A mere human dared to be so arrogant in the face of 5 heavenly ghosts. One of the heavenly ghosts could not hold back the anger in its heart. It took a step forward and directly attacked Xiao Chen. It had no understanding of Xiao Chen's combat strength at all. Otherwise, this heavenly ghost would not have dared to attack Xiao Chen alone. In the face of this heavenly ghost's attack, a murderous intent flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He then gently pointed his finger and directly displayed the Chun Jun sword finger. A golden sword light flashed. Against ordinary heavenly ghosts, the Chun Jun sword finger could directly kill them. The heavenly ghost's expression immediately changed when it faced the Chun Jun sword finger. It was originally rushing towards Xiao Chen, but it also stopped directly. An extreme sense of danger rose uncontrollably from the bottom of its heart. It wanted to retreat, but it was obviously too late. The golden sword light directly pierced through the heavenly ghost's head. Its body fell with a thud, and a Tao thought seed slowly floated out of its corpse. Xiao Chen unceremoniously put the Tao thought seed into his arms. At the same time, seeing that Xiao Chen had killed a heavenly ghost with a single finger, the remaining 4 heavenly ghosts were also stunned. How could a mere human kill a heavenly ghost so easily? They had already realized that they had hit an iron plate. The human in front of them was obviously not to be trifled with. His strength made the 4 heavenly ghosts want to retreat. They already had the intention to retreat, but at this time, Xiao Chen naturally would not give them any chance to escape. Seeing that the 4 heavenly ghosts no longer took the initiative to attack, Xiao Chen took the initiative to attack the 4 heavenly ghosts. Xiao Chen held the scarlet-edged sword in his hand, and a perfect sword chi soared into the sky. Unsurprisingly, the 4 heavenly ghosts did not have much power to fight back under Xiao Chen's sword. In just over 100 breaths, Xiao Chen killed 3 of them and captured 1 alive. The reason why he left the last heavenly ghost behind was simple. Xiao Chen wanted to go to the base of the Polar Tribe. Obviously, there were still spirit-reading ghosts there, which would allow Xiao Chen to obtain more Tao Insight Seed. In order to break through to the Celestial Realm as soon as possible, Xiao Chen needed a huge amount of Tao Thought Seed. It was also because of this that Xiao Chen had to do his best to kill the Thought Ghost. Xiao Chen placed the scarlet-edged sword across the heavenly ghost's neck and looked down at it. He smiled and said, "You will take me to the Polar Tribe, right?" Hearing this, the heavenly ghost naturally knew why Xiao Chen wanted to go to the Polar Tribe. Obviously, Xiao Chen wanted to uproot the entire Polar Tribe. Knowing Xiao Chen's purpose, the heavenly ghost was very stubborn at first and immediately refused. However, such stubbornness did not last long in front of Xiao Chen. Soon, the heavenly ghost chose to submit. It was completely frightened by Shao Chun. In the eyes of the heavenly ghost, Shao Chun was even crueler than it was. It did not want to experience such means again in its lifetime. After a beating, the heavenly ghost became much more obedient and answered all of Shao Chun's questions truthfully. From the heavenly ghost, Shao Chun roughly understood the situation of the Polar tribe. Their overall strength was about the same as the Kuching tribe, so Shao Chun was not much of a threat. After learning about the overall strength of the Polar tribe, Mu Feng and the others also killed the rest of the thought ghosts and handed over all the Tao insight seeds to Shao Chun. Then, the group of people headed towards the Polar tribe. It was located in this mountain range. They went all the way to the Polar tribe. However, when they were still far away, Shao Chun saw a tree trunk outside the Polar tribe. On the tree trunk, there was a Sky Pride's corpse that had been directly pierced through and hung in midair. Seeing this corpse, Shao Chun unconsciously stopped in his tracks. At the same time, the expressions of Mu Feng and the others changed. Shao Chun knew this Sky Pride. He seemed to be from the Burning Sky sect. He did not expect that he had been killed by the thought ghost. It seemed that he was caught by the Polar tribe before he could meet up with the others and had his heart dug out. Looking at the corpse in front of them, Mu Feng and the others felt somewhat sorrowful. At the same time, they felt very fortunate that they had met Shao Chun. Shao Chun had led them to destroy so many thought ghost tribes during this period of time. It was all because of Shao Chun's existence. Think about it, if they had not met Shao Chun, what would the situation be like? Perhaps they would not be much better off than this Sky Pride. In the Five Elements Tao Palace, the Sky Prides were indeed in extreme danger without the protection of the King of Prides. This was because any heavenly ghost was enough to take their life. Therefore, it was very important to find a King of Prides as soon as possible. Otherwise, they might end up like this Sky Pride, buried in a foreign land and eaten by the thought ghost. Retracting his gaze, Shao Chun looked at the heavenly ghost with an indifferent expression. "Did you guys kill this person?" "No. It wasn't me. The leader killed him. I didn't do anything. Also, I didn't eat his heart. The leader ate it all." Hearing Shao Chun's words, the heavenly ghost nervously replied. Shao Chun did not say anything else after hearing the heavenly ghost's reply. He pointed his finger and killed the heavenly ghost. Since they had already arrived at the Polar Ground tribe, this heavenly ghost was of no use at all. After killing the heavenly ghost, Shao Chun said to Mu Feng and the others, "Go and put him down." They were all humans of the heavenly Chun continent. Seeing this Sky Pride's corpse hanging there, Shao Chun did not feel good. Hearing Shao Chun's words, Mu Feng and the others immediately nodded and went to put down the Sky Pride's corpse. At the same time, after Mu Feng and the others appeared, in less than 10 breaths of time, hundreds of mind-reading ghosts rushed out from the Polar Ground tribe. They were led by 5 heavenly ghosts. One of them was comparable to Kuching. He should be the leader of the Polar Ground tribe. Seeing more than 10 humans appear, the leader of the Polar Ground tribe laughed out loud. However, before he could finish laughing, a sword light whizzed toward him. Because of this Sky Pride's death, Shao Chun was not in a good mood. Therefore, he did not want to waste time talking nonsense with these mind-reading ghosts. He chose to attack directly. The leader of the Polar Ground tribe and the 4 heavenly ghosts beside him changed their expressions and hurriedly dodged the sword light. At the same time, Shao Chun attacked with the scarlet-edged sword in his hand. Seeing Shao Chun's attack, the leader of the Polar Ground tribe angrily shouted, "Kill these humans!" Then, the 2 sides engaged in a fierce battle. He left Helien to guard the Sky Pride's corpse while the others followed Shao Chun to fight the mind-reading ghosts of the Polar Ground tribe. Chapter 263. Shao Chun and the others were engaged in a fierce battle with the spirit-reading ghosts of the Polar tribe. In fact, Shao Chun and the others did not have a deep bond with the dead genius. They were merely acquaintances. However, as they were in the 5 Elements Palace, It was only natural for them to be furious when they saw the spirit-reading ghosts dig out the genius's heart and use his corpse as a flagpole. At the same time, when they saw the young genius's corpse, they suddenly remembered what the ruler of the continent of the 9 clouds had said before entering the Tao Palace. In the Tao Palace, humans weren't the only ones who hunted the Nian Gui. The Nian Gui also hunted humans. Both sides were waiting for the day when the Tao Palace would open. Humans used the seeds of Tao consciousness to break through, and the Nian Gui used the hearts of humans to break through. With a ball of anger in their hearts, everyone naturally became more ruthless. Under the leadership of Shao Chen, it was no surprise that the polar tribe was uprooted. After harvesting more than 100 Tao will seeds, everyone found a place with good feng shui to bury the body of this heaven's pride. After dying in the Tao Palace of 5 elements, the body couldn't be left and could only be buried on the spot. A heaven's pride of a generation was buried in a foreign land. This also proved that on the path of martial arts, even if you had supreme talent, it was fraught with danger. Talent only meant that you could reach higher heights, but it didn't guarantee that you would be able to reach that step. Therefore, on the path of martial arts, every step had to be taken carefully. After burying the heaven's pride, Shao Chen and the others continued their journey to hunt down the mind-reading ghosts. They were eager to break through to the celestial being layer. In the following days, they didn't slack off. After entering the ghost zone, Shao Chen was like a fish in the sea. He had countless targets to choose from. There wasn't a strong tribe like the Night Eclipse tribe in the ghost zone. There weren't any ghost kings or half-step ghost kings either. The strongest were only Tian ghosts. Therefore, with Shao Chen's strength, he was able to do whatever he wanted. Wherever the group went, the tribes of Niangui tribe were uprooted one by one. The continuous hunting had increased the number of seeds in Shao Chen's pocket. Of course, during this period, Shao Chen also took out a portion of the seeds and gave them to Mu Feng and the others. As for himself, he did not use them for the time being. He planned to use them to break through the barrier when he broke through to the celestial being realm. After sweeping through the ghost zone for half a month, Shao Chen finally found a valley and prepared to break through to the celestial being layer. After half a month of sweeping, Shao Chen had collected as many as 40 sets of 5 elemental seeds. Of course, Shao Chen gave most of them to Mu Feng and the others. At this time, Mu Feng and the other 4 exceptional geniuses had reached the great perfection of the Earth Mirror realm. The other 8 top geniuses had also reached the lesser perfection of the Earth Mirror realm. With such strength, they were much stronger than when they entered the 5 elemental Tao Palace. With Mu Feng and the others' cultivation, they could now kill Tian ghosts. This was especially true for the exceptional geniuses. They could fight against several Tian ghosts alone. Now, all they had to do was wait for Shao Chen to break through to the celestial being layer. Then, they should be able to destroy the Night Eclipse tribe. Shao Chen asked the others to protect him while he opened up a cave for temporary closed-door training. More than 10 geniuses stood guard outside the cave. At the same time, Shao Chen, who was sitting cross-legged in the cave, swallowed the first set of 5 elemental seeds. Shao Chen was already very familiar with the feeling of being imparted by the heavenly Tao. His soul seemed to be in an endless galaxy. Shao Chen swallowed one set of 5 elemental seeds after another. Soon, all 30 sets of 5 elemental seeds were refined by Shao Chen. However, the barrier to breaking through to the celestial being layer was still not broken. The number of 5 elemental seeds needed to break through to the next realm was definitely the most. To put it this way, the number of 5 elemental seeds Shao Chen needed to break through to the celestial being layer from the great perfection of the Earth Mirror realm was definitely much more than what Shao Chen needed to break through to the lesser perfection of the celestial being layer. After all, this was breaking through to the next realm. After refining 35 sets of 5 elemental seeds, Shao Chen felt a muffled sound coming from his body. The barrier to breaking through to the celestial being layer was finally broken. Without the barrier, Shao Chun did not hesitate. He swallowed more than 10 elixirs and began to break through to the celestial being layer. The celestial being layer, as the name implied, was the realm of being one with the world. As for what it meant to be one with the world, a simple explanation was to compare the human body to a small world, using one's body to accommodate and sense all things. This was also a preparation for coming into contact with the Tao in the future. Countless elixirs were swallowed by Shao Chun. His aura at the great perfection of the Earth Mirror realm continued to rise. Because there was no longer a barrier to the next realm, Shao Chun broke through to the celestial being layer without any effort. After breaking through from the Earth Mirror realm to the celestial being layer, Shao Chun felt that his strength had once again taken a qualitative leap. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face. He slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Shao Chun laughed softly. I've finally succeeded. Since entering the Tao Palace of the 5 elements, Shao Chun had been working hard to break through to the celestial being layer. Now that 2 months had passed, Shao Chun had finally succeeded. Thinking about it, when he was in the Eastern Sun region, the celestial being layer was already considered a powerhouse. Now, he was only in his early 20s, and he had already reached this level. Who could have imagined this in the past? Of course, with Shao Chun's current outlook, the celestial being layer was nothing. It could even be considered the beginning of the martial path. Compared to the ruler of the 9 clouds and the other true powerhouses, the celestial being layer was still just a basic realm. They only knew martial arts but did not understand the Tao. Even so, to be able to break through to the celestial being layer at such a young age was enough to prove Shao Chun's great talent. Mu Feng and the others, who were guarding outside the cave, had looks of envy on their faces when they sensed the terrifying spiritual energy fluctuations coming from within the cave. Of course, they were not jealous of Shao Chun's breakthrough. This was because in this half a month, if Shao Chun had not shared most of the Tao intent seeds with them, they would not have been able to reach this level. Brother Chun has finally broken through? Mu Feng's gaze unconsciously looked at the entrance of the cave as he whispered to himself with a smile on his face. Since entering the Tao Palace of the 5 elements and meeting Shao Chun, Mu Feng and Shao Chun had indeed become more familiar with each other. Moreover, Mu Feng had unknowingly become more and more impressed with Shao Chun. It could be said that in Mu Feng's heart, there were 2 people in the younger generation that he admired the most. One was his cousin Mu He and the other was Shao Chun. They had some conflicts in the city of the Medicine King. Now, Shao Chun's position in Mu Feng's heart was already second only to Mu He. Therefore, Mu Feng was sincerely happy that Shao Chun could successfully break through to the celestial being layer. Chapter 264. After successfully breaking through to the sky human stage, Shao Chun slowly walked out of the cave under the watchful eyes of Mu Feng and the others. The breakthrough in his cultivation base caused Shao Chun's temperament to become even more ethereal. That was especially true of his pair of eyes. Beneath the tranquility of an ancient well, there seemed to be an inexplicable attraction that would cause one to unconsciously fall into them. Dressed in white, He Lian, who was also a disciple of 9 Firmaments Palace, faced Shao Chun. Her face unconsciously turned red and she dared not look at Shao Chun, putting on a bashful look. With a faint smile on his face, Shao Chun looked at the others and said with a chuckle, "Everyone, it is time to go meet the nocturnal tribe." Hearing Shao Chun's words, the others smiled and nodded. Their strength had increased greatly, especially Shao Chun. He had broken through from the great circle of the earthen realm to the entry level of the sky human stage. For Shao Chun, breaking through to such a major realm was definitely a qualitative leap. They began moving towards the nocturnal tribe. Several hours later, Shao Chun and the others arrived at the mountain range where they had first entered the ghost zone. However, Shao Chun did not expect to encounter Guduwuya's group in this mountain range. Like Shao Chun, Guduwuya had also brought along a group of 12 sky prides. They were all very happy to meet each other here. Regardless of whether there was any enmity between them or not, in the five elemental Tao Palace, they were all companions. Seeing Xiao Qin, Guduwia laughed heartily and said, "Brother Xiao Qin, I didn't think that the first person I met would be you." Then, he gave Xiao Qin a hug. As the lazy Guduwia, the only ones who could make him so excited were probably the other members of the 10 Great Prides. Like Xiao Qin, Guduwia had also broken through to the celestial realm after 2 months of training in the 5 elemental Tao Palace. It seemed that Guduwia had also gained a lot in the past 2 months. Moreover, the geniuses behind him were not any weaker than Mu Feng and the others. After chatting for a while, Guduwia finally heard that Xiao Qin was going to destroy the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. He didn't think much about it and immediately expressed his willingness to participate. Xiao Qin naturally wouldn't refuse. With the addition of Guduwia, this trip would be even more foolproof. "Brother Xiao, don't blame me for stealing your Tao Force seed when the time comes," Guduwia said with a smile as he looked at Xiao Qin. "That's hard to say. What if I snatch it from you?" Xiao Qin replied with a smile when he heard that. The two of them teased each other. At the same time, due to the meeting of the 2 Great Prides, some changes were made to the distribution of the Tao Force seed. It was no longer a uniform distribution like before. Instead, it was based on individual ability. Whoever killed the Tao Force seed would get it. Now that all the Sky Prides had the strength to kill the Heavenly Ghost, especially the peerless Sky Prides, this method was feasible. In the last month, the number of seeds of Taoist will that one could obtain would depend on one's own ability. It was the same for Xiao Qin and Guduwia. Whoever killed Nian Gui would get the seeds of Taoist will. The 2 proud kings led the group to the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. Xiao Qin was no stranger to the plain where the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe was located. In less than a day, the group arrived at the plain. As if he was reminded of the past, Xiao Qin became playful and told the group about Mu Feng's embarrassing incident in the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. When they heard that Mu Feng had rushed to the front of the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe alone and shouted, "Kneel down and call me daddy," the geniuses held their stomachs and laughed. Everyone gave Mu Feng a thumbs up. "Haha, Mu Feng, you're really good. I admire you." "Me too. You're just a primary earth mirror cultivator. Yet you dare to go to the Nian Gui tribe with a half-step ghost king and call yourself grandpa. Haha, Mu Feng, you've got guts." Everyone chimed in one after another. Even Guduwia shook his head and smiled bitterly. This Mu Feng was too funny. The Nocturnal Eclipse tribe had a half-step ghost king as their leader and hundreds of heavenly ghosts. At that time, Mu Feng was just a primary earth mirror cultivator. Yet, he dared to come to the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe and call himself grandpa. Mu Feng's face turned red in the face of everyone's teasing. He immediately shouted, "What are you laughing at? I did it on purpose. You know that? I did it on purpose." While everyone was laughing, a huge Nian Gui tribe appeared in their line of sight. Looking at the scale of the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe, even Guduwia had to admit that the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe was indeed very strong. At least, this was the largest Nian Gui tribe he had seen since he entered the 5 elemental Tao Palace. Perhaps it was because he had been teased by everyone, but when he saw the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe, Mu Feng immediately rushed forward and shouted, "Bastards of the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe, your Grandpa Mu is here again." Everyone almost burst out laughing when they heard Mu Feng's angry shout. The group of Nian Gui guards outside the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe also looked at Mu Feng in confusion. "This human?" the heavenly ghost leader asked doubtfully when he saw Mu Feng rushing over alone. "Leader, this human seems to be the guy who called himself Grandpa last time." The heavenly ghost leader was still a little confused. However, an earth mirror Nian Gui beside him happened to be one of the Nian Gui who had seen Mu Feng before. He quickly recognized Mu Feng. Back then, Mu Feng had barged into the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe alone and was rescued by Xiao Qin. He even killed a heavenly ghost leader outside the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. This was not a secret in the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. Now, almost a month later, Mu Feng had appeared again. Seeing Mu Feng rushing over, the heavenly ghost leader's face darkened. "Damn human, how dare you come again? You're courting death." With a cold shout, the heavenly ghost leader did not order his subordinates to attack. He directly rushed towards Mu Feng, wanting to suppress Mu Feng as quickly as possible. He did not realize that Mu Feng was much stronger than before. Last time, Mu Feng was not a match for the heavenly ghost, but now, Mu Feng could easily suppress the heavenly ghost. "Human, you're courting death!" shouted Mu Feng furiously. Immediately after, the heavenly ghost clawed at Mu Feng. When Mu Feng saw that, he didn't dodge. Instead, he ferociously punched out. His fist was covered with a thick red light as he laughed out loud. "Grandson, do you think your Grandpa Mu is still the same as before? Die." He was full of confidence. The result of the clash was beyond the expectations of all the Nian Gui present. With a single punch, Mu Feng directly blasted the heavenly ghost leader's head apart. Mu Feng had killed a heavenly ghost with a single punch. Looking at this scene, the Nian Gui who were sneering were completely stunned. What's going on? Is this human really the guy who called himself Grandpa? Chapter 265. Mu Feng killed a heavenly ghost with a single punch. The psychic ghosts nearby were stunned by Mu Feng's strength. It had only been less than a month, but Mu Feng's strength had already reached such a level. Without any hesitation, Mu Feng charged at the psychic ghosts after killing the heavenly ghost with a single blow. The ordinary Earth Mirror psychic ghosts were completely helpless against Mu Feng. It was a one-sided slaughter. While Mu Feng was engaged in a fierce battle with the psychic ghosts, countless psychic ghosts charged out from the Night Eclipse tribe. Among them, there were more than 100 heavenly ghosts. It was said that there were thousands of psychic ghosts in the Night Eclipse tribe. As the psychic ghosts charged out, Xiao Chen, Guduwia, and the others also joined in the fray. Xiao Chen's face was calm as he faced more than a dozen heavenly ghosts alone. The scarlet-edged sword in his hand seemed to be swinging casually, but a heavenly ghost was killed with every swing of the sword. After breaking through to the celestial realm, the heavenly ghosts were even more vulnerable in front of Xiao Chen. Like Xiao Chen, Guduwia also displayed great strength. Killing the heavenly ghosts was as easy as chopping vegetables. "Stop those two humans! Stop them!" Xiao Chen and Guduwia's strength quickly attracted the attention of the other heavenly ghosts. In an instant, the other heavenly ghosts of the Night Eclipse tribe surrounded Xiao Chen and Guduwia. They all knew that among the humans, Xiao Chen and Guduwia were the most dangerous. Dozens of heavenly ghosts surrounded Xiao Chen and Guduwia. Seeing this, Xiao Chen smiled. "Now this is interesting." With that, Xiao Chen took the initiative to attack. Guduwia was not to be outdone. The two of them immediately engaged in a fierce battle with dozens of heavenly ghosts. A fierce battle broke out. Although Xiao Chen's side did not have many people, there were only about 20 of them. However, after 2 months of training, all of them had improved by leaps and bounds. Not to mention Xiao Chen and Guduwia, even the top prodigies could easily kill Earth Mirror psychic ghosts. As a result, even though there were thousands of psychic ghosts in the Night Eclipse tribe, they were still at a disadvantage. It was especially so for Xiao Chen and Guduwia's battlefield. They could even kill ordinary heavenly ghosts with a slash of their swords, not to mention Earth Mirror psychic ghosts. Only the top heavenly ghosts could contend with Xiao Chen and Guduwia, but there were only about 10 of them in the entire Night Eclipse tribe. "Damn it! How are these humans so strong?" One of the sky ghosts snarled at the sight of the spirit readers retreating in defeat. In the past, when the Five Elements Palace opened, the humans from the heavenly Qin continent would also enter the Five Elements Palace. But they had never been this strong before. They were horrified. Of course, these psychic ghosts didn't know that although the number of people from the heavenly Qin continent who entered the Five Elements Palace this time was much smaller than before, only about 100 of them, But these 100+ people were all prodigies, so their strength was naturally incomparable to before. Everyone was giving it their all. They watched as the reading ghosts fell one after another. More than 30 heavenly ghosts had been killed, including Shao Chen and Guduwia. Naturally, most of the heavenly ghosts died at the hands of Shao Chen and Guduwia. In the midst of the fierce battle, perhaps the leader of the Night Eclipse tribe sensed that they were no match for the humans, so he finally showed himself. A deafening roar resounded. Then, from the depths of the tribe, a black gas soared into the sky. Amidst the black gas, a 3-meter-tall psychic ghost with jet-black skin that resembled battle armor strode out. The aura that far exceeded that of the heavenly ghosts continued to spread. Upon seeing the appearance of this psychic ghost, everyone knew that the leader of the Night Eclipse tribe had finally appeared. It was the psychic ghost who was said to have 1 foot in the Ghost King realm. Sweeping his gaze across the crowd, Night Eclipse finally fixed his gaze on Shao Chen and Guduwia. He shouted coldly, "Damn humans! You're courting death. Today this king will make you beg for death." He was originally in seclusion to break through to the Ghost King realm. Who would have thought that at this critical moment, humans would attack him? Moreover, they were so strong, especially the 2 leaders. They killed the heavenly ghosts of the Night Eclipse tribe without any chance to retaliate. Seeing that the Night Eclipse tribe was about to be defeated, Night Eclipse had no choice but to come out of seclusion. This also caused him to be unable to break through to the Ghost King realm. One could imagine how strong the killing intent in his heart was. His breakthrough was forcibly ruined by this group of humans. Taking a step forward, Night Eclipse instantly appeared in front of Shao Chen and Guduwia. Just by standing face to face, Shao Chen and Guduwia felt a considerable amount of pressure. Although a half-step Ghost King was not a true Ghost King, it was still incomparable to a heavenly ghost. In front of Night Eclipse, even a peak heavenly ghost would be in existence that could be slapped to death with a single slap. Night Eclipse's eyes flashed with intense killing intent. Surrounded by black gas, he stared coldly at Shao Chen and Guduwia. Then, he shouted coldly, "Take down these humans. I want them alive." His hatred for Shao Chen and the others could no longer be described with words. Therefore, Night Eclipse wanted them to suffer a fate worse than death. He wanted them to see with their own eyes what it felt like to have their hearts dug out. Hearing Night Eclipse's words, the spirit-reading ghosts responded respectfully. Then, including the remaining dozens of heavenly ghosts, they no longer cared about Shao Chen and Guduwia. Instead, they attacked Mu Feng and the other Sky Prides with all their might. Shao Chen and Guduwia were dealt with by Night Eclipse. The battle broke out again. Shao Chen and the others had obviously expected this. Tightening his grip on his sword, Guduwia said, "Half-step Ghost King. Brother Shao Chen, make your move. The seed of Tao intent belongs to whoever kills them." This was the first time he had faced a half-step Ghost King. With that, Guduwia took the initiative to attack. Seeing this, Shao Chen also moved and chased after Guduwia. The 2 Sky Prides were working together to deal with Night Eclipse, a half-step Ghost King. Seeing this, Night Eclipse coldly shouted, "You're courting death." Then, he slapped out with his claw. Black gas rapidly condensed into a ghost claw and attacked the 2. Its power was extremely great. Facing Night Eclipse's attack, Guduwia continuously stabbed out with his sword. A total of 8 sword lights shot out and collided with Night Eclipse's ghost claw. However, when the 2 collided, Guduwia's 8 sword lights were shattered in less than 10 breaths. Then, the huge ghost claw attacked Guduwia again. At the same time, Shao Chen also slashed out with his sword. Wherever his sword passed, it collided with the ghost claw again. This time, the 2 finally cancelled each other out. The ghost claw and sword chi slowly dissipated. Chapter 266. Shao Chen and Guduwia had to make 2 moves to block the Night Eater's attack. In response, Shao Chen did not hesitate to use his dragon transformation. Against the Night Eater, It was indeed difficult to contend with it without using a secret technique. Seeing that Shao Chun had used a secret technique, Gudu Wuya did the same. Their auras suddenly rose. At the same time, the Night Eater attacked. Immediately, 2 humans and 1 ghost engaged in a fierce battle. This was the first time that Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya had fought side by side. In the face of the Night Eater's attack, the 2 of them used everything they had. Shao Chun pointed his finger and used the dragon's spring sword finger. The roar of a dragon shook the sky, while Gudu Wuya slashed out a sky full of sword chi. The 2 of them attacked the Night Eater Ghost King from both sides. Previously, the Night Eater Ghost King did not feel that the 2 humans were a threat to it. However, after the 2 of them used their secret techniques, their strength increased greatly. For a moment, even the Night Eater Ghost King's expression changed drastically. In the previous battle, the 2 humans were still hiding their strength? Horrified, the Night Eater Ghost King thought to himself in disbelief. How could this be possible? They were slaughtering heavenly ghosts like dogs. How could they still hide their strength? The Night Eater Ghost King no longer dared to be careless. Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya's attacks were enough to threaten the Night Eater Ghost King's life. Even so, under the siege of Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya, the Night Eater Ghost King gradually fell into a disadvantage. The 2 humans in front of it were definitely the strongest humans the Night Eater Ghost King had ever encountered. Since the birth of the Night Eater Ghost King, every time the 5 Elements Tao Palace opened, countless humans had died at its hands. Now, the appearance of Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya was hard for the Night Eater Ghost King to accept. Could humans be so strong? Seeing that the Night Eater Ghost King was at a disadvantage, the other Night Eater Ghost Kings were shocked. In their hearts, the Night Eater Ghost King was invincible. But now, he was being forced to retreat by 2 humans. For a moment, the Night Eclipse tribe's spirit-reading ghosts lost their momentum. On the other hand, Mu Feng and the rest took advantage of the situation and continued to increase their advantage. A half-step Ghost King is only SOSO, Gudu Wuya said calmly as he swung his sword. As soon as he finished, one of the Night Eater Ghost King's arms was cut off. At the same time, just as Gudu Wuya swung his sword, Shao Chun also cut off the Night Eater Ghost King's other arm. With both arms crippled, the Night Eater Ghost King turned around and fled without hesitation. The strength of the 2 humans in front of it was far beyond what the Night Eater Ghost King could imagine. It did not dare to continue fighting. It knew that if it did, it would be the one to die. Do you think you can escape? Brother Gudu, I'll make a move first. Seeing that the Night Eater Ghost King was about to escape, Shao Chun sneered and chased after him. Whoever killed the Night Eater Ghost King would get his seed of Tao. Shao Chun naturally would not hold back. Hearing Shao Chun's words, Gudu Wuya also chased after him without hesitation. The 2 of them chased after the Night Eater Ghost King. The Night Eater Ghost King was already heavily injured. Now that he was being chased by Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya, it was naturally difficult for him to escape. Before he could run far, Shao Chun caught up with him. He swung his sword and blocked the Night Eater Ghost King's escape route. At the same time, Gudu Wuya also chased after him. However, he was 1 step slower and had lost the initiative. He slowly pointed his finger and used the Tai sword finger. A sword ray as thick as a mountain instantly engulfed the Night Eater Ghost King. At the same time, Shao Chun chuckled softly. Brother Gudu, I'll be taking the half-step Ghost King's seed of Tao. The sure kill attack had caused the half-step Ghost King to die on the spot. As a result, the seed of Tao in his body naturally belonged to Shao Chun. Seeing the Night Eater Ghost King being engulfed by the Tai sword finger, Gudu Wuya, who was 1 step slower, said gloomily, Brother Shao Chun, that's not very nice of you. Shao Chun naturally did not take Gudu Wuya's complaint to heart. After all, they had already agreed that whoever killed the Night Eater Ghost King would get his seed of Tao. Now that the Night Eater Ghost King had died at the hands of Shao Chun, his seed of Tao naturally belonged to Shao Chun. The sword ray slowly dissipated. As for the Night Eater Ghost King, it had already been reduced to ashes by the terrifying power of the Tai-E sword finger. Only 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao were left floating in the air. There were 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao in his body. It was common knowledge that Tao seeds could only be found in the bodies of ghost chasers who had reached the Earth mirror level. Moreover, ghost chasers at the Earth mirror level were only a possibility, not 100%. After reaching the heavenly ghost level, although there was a 100% guarantee that there would be a Tao seed in one's body, it was only one seed. A set of 5 elemental seed of Tao was made up of 5 seeds of different attribute. It was very difficult to gather all of them. After all, Tao seeds with overlapping attributes would often appear. Now, after killing the Night Eater Ghost King, Shao Chun had obtained 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao. What kind of concept was this? One must know that even after destroying a ghost chaser tribe like the Kaching tribe, Shao Chun was unable to gather 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao. Looking at the 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao, even Gudu Wuyao was envious. Is this the legendary lucky bastard? Just by killing the Night Eater Ghost King alone, Shao Chun had obtained 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao. Without any hesitation, Shao Chun put the 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao into his storage ring with a wave of his hand. This trip was already worth it. Next, after dealing with the Night Eater Ghost King, Shao Chun and Gudu Wuyao joined the battle against Mu Feng and the others. The Night Eater Ghost Chasers were already retreating. With the addition of Shao Chun and Gudu Wuyao, the Ghost Chasers of the Night Eater tribe were quickly defeated. Even their leader, the half-step Ghost King Night Eater, had been killed by Shao Chun. The remaining Ghost Chasers of the Night Eater tribe were naturally unable to cause any trouble. They were quickly wiped out one by one. After the battle, although many of them were injured, it was not difficult to guess from the smile on everyone's face that they had gained a lot from the battle. The harvest from destroying a Night Eater tribe was definitely comparable to destroying dozens of small Ghost Chaser tribes. There was no doubt about that. If one were to ask who had gained the most from this battle, it was undoubtedly Shao Chun. Just the 20 sets of 5 elemental seed of Tao from killing the Night Eater Ghost King was enough to make everyone envious. Moreover, this was without counting the heavenly ghosts and ordinary ghost chasers that Shao Chun had killed. Chapter 267. After killing the Night Eater Ghost King and annihilating the Night Eater tribe, everyone was excitedly counting their gains. This battle could be said to be a complete victory. Although some of them were seriously injured, fortunately, no one died. With the Night Eater tribe as their base, everyone chose to rest for a while. After all, this battle had ended and many of them were injured. With the current situation, it was naturally not suitable for them to continue hunting ghost-reading ghosts. After a day of rest, everyone's injuries were almost completely healed. At the same time, Gudu Wuyao suggested that everyone move towards the core area. As the name implied, the core area was the central location of the 5 elements Tao Palace. All the powerful ghost-reading tribes were basically gathered in the core area. For example, the 5 great ghost kings of the 5 elements Tao Palace were existences that had truly stepped into the Ghost King realm. They were far from what a half-baked ghost king like the Night Eater Ghost King could compare to. Moreover, the ghost-reading tribe that was founded by the 5 great ghost kings was many times larger than the Night Eater tribe. If they could annihilate the Ghost King tribe, they would really hit the jackpot. Of course, in the core area, other than the 5 great Ghost King tribes, there were also many half-step Ghost King tribes like the Night Eater tribe. Annihilating them would also net them a small fortune. Moreover, it had been more than 2 months since they entered the 5 elements Tao Palace. It was likely that the other primordial kings had also begun to move towards the core area. In the face of Gudu Wuyao's suggestion, Shao Chun did not reject it. With everyone's current strength, an ordinary ghost-reading tribe was no longer attractive. Attacking an ordinary ghost reading tribe would not only take a lot of time and effort, but they would also obtain very few Dao Will seeds. Only a ghost reading tribe like the Night Eater tribe could attract everyone. If they wanted to find another ghost reading tribe like the Night Eater tribe, it was indeed possible to go to the core area. After agreeing to Gudawuya's suggestion, everyone began to rush towards the core area. The entire 5 elemental Dao Palace wasn't too big, so it didn't take them long to reach the core area. Once they entered the core area, they had to admit that they were very lucky. They quickly found a Ghost Whisper tribe that was comparable to the Night Eater tribe. It was about the same size as the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe. It also had a half-step Ghost King and hundreds of heavenly ghosts. Although they did not know the tribe's name, it did not matter. With Xiao Chen's order, they launched an attack on the Nyanghui tribe. They already had experience fighting the Nocturnal Eclipse tribe, so this time, everyone was more comfortable. Xiao Chen and Gudawuya also joined forces to attack the leader of this tribe, the half-step Ghost King. Without wasting any time, they immediately used their secret techniques to end the battle quickly. This time, Gudawuya had clearly learned his lesson. After joining forces with Xiao Chen to seriously injure the half-step Ghost King, Gudawuya didn't stop. He immediately unleashed his killer move and killed the half-step Ghost King with a single slash. Gudawuya also obtained 20 sets of 5 elemental Dao Will seeds. He unceremoniously put them into his storage ring and laughed. "Haha, brother Xiao Chen, I won't hold back this time." Hearing Gudawuya's words, Xiao Chen smiled slightly. Obviously, he didn't take it to heart. Since they had already arrived at the core area, there were already many half-step Ghost Kings. Therefore, Xiao Chen didn't care at all. Moreover, the Dao Will seeds could at most allow one to break through to the celestial being realm's full circle. Beyond that, the Dao Will seeds would be useless. It would be a waste to have more. After a fierce battle, the group successfully destroyed this tribe. After destroying 2 tribes of half-step Ghost Kings in succession, everyone's harvest was quite bountiful. Xiao Chen and Gudawuya were even prepared to break through to the celestial being realm's minor completion in one go. The 2 of them each killed a half-step Ghost King and each obtained 20 sets of 5 elemental Dao Will seed. In addition to the heavenly ghosts they killed, Xiao Chen and Gudawuya both collected 25 sets of 5 elemental Dao Will seed. This was enough for them to break through to the celestial being realm's minor completion. They immediately began to break through in this tribe. With the help of the Dao Will seeds, the 2 of them successfully stepped into the celestial being realm's minor completion. It had only been a few days since they stepped into the celestial being realm, and the 2 of them had already broken through to the celestial being realm's minor completion. This speed of improvement could only be achieved in the 5 elemental palace. It was obviously impossible to achieve this in other places. After Xiao Chen and Gudawuya's cultivation had broken through, a prodigy hurriedly greeted the 2 of them. He said that there was a battle about 100 miles away from the group. It seemed that humans and spirit-reading ghosts had encountered each other. After hearing this news, Xiao Chen pondered for a moment before quickly making a decision. He looked at Gudawuya and said in a deep voice, "Brother Gudu." Knowing what Xiao Chen meant, Gudawuya nodded slightly. Since they had encountered other people, they naturally had to lend a helping hand. After making a decision, the group rushed towards the direction of the battlefield. Just as Xiao Chen and the rest rushed over, there was indeed a group of humans fighting spirit-reading ghosts at the place where the battle had broken out. There were a total of 18 people, and the 2 people leading them were Snow Fairy Ouyang Roshua and Bloodwood Prodigy Wang Mu. The 2 of them had joined forces, and there were 18 prodigies following them. However, even so, Ouyang Roshua and Mu's situation was extremely critical. This was because the spirit-reading tribe they had encountered was not a half-step Ghost King tribe, but a Ghost King tribe. At this moment there was really a Ghost King fighting with the 2 of them. A Ghost King was comparable to a human Dao querying realm expert. It was said to be the limit of the 5 elemental Tao Palace. There were only 5 Ghost Kings in the entire 5 elemental Tao Palace. Unlike half-step Ghost Kings were extremely powerful. At the same time, their appearance seemed to have been completely degraded. They were no longer as ugly as the spirit-reading ghosts. On the contrary, they were closer to humans. However, the Ghost Kings' bodies were constantly covered in a layer of black fog, like armor. At this moment, the Ghost King fighting Ouyang Roshue and Mu was called Ghost King Ba Tuesday. He had chased Ouyang Roshue and the rest all the way here and finally surrounded them. He threw out a punch. In the face of Ghost King Batu's attack, although Ouyang Roshue and Mu tried their best to resist, they were still sent flying by the punch. In the face of a Ghost King, the strength of 2 King Prides was indeed insufficient. Laughing heartily, Ghost King Batu's eyes were overflowing with killing intent as he said, "Humans, the 2 of you are quite strong. This king has been in the 5 elements Tao Palace for over 100 years, but I have never met humans as strong as the 2 of you. I believe your hearts must be quite tasty." Chapter 268. Batu had lived in the 5 Tao Palace for more than 100 years, but he had never met a human with such powerful combat strength. The humans who had entered the 5 Tao Palace before were all easily killed by him. However, Ouyang Roshue and Mu he had fought with him for more than 100 moves, and they were still able to hold on. The strength of the 2 Kings of Pride had exceeded the Batu Phantom King's strength. However, this had also piqued the Batu Phantom King's interest. If he could devour the hearts of such powerful humans, he might be able to obtain some unexpected benefits. Hearing Batu's words, Ouyang Roshue and Mu, he looked at each other, and then looked at the other battles. It could be said that the current situation was completely hopeless. The Batu Ghost King's strength was beyond Ouyang Roshue and Ouyang Ruoshue's imagination. 2 King of Prides were obviously not enough to deal with him, let alone kill him. As for the other geniuses, they were constantly retreating under the encirclement of the Batu tribe's heavenly ghosts and countless spirit-reading ghosts. 2 of them had already been killed, and the rest were all heavily injured. They wanted to retreat, but it was impossible now. A look of determination flashed across their eyes. There was no way to retreat, so they could only fight to the death. They looked at each other and nodded slightly. Then, Ouyang Roshue and Mu he attacked Batu at the same time, both of them raising their strength to the maximum. Facing Ouyang Roshue and Mu he's attacks, Batu revealed a cold smile. "With your strength, even a half-step Ghost King would have to suffer if he encountered you. Unfortunately, you have encountered me, so you too won't have a chance." As he spoke, a dense black gas rapidly spread out from Batu's body. This black gas was like a dark cloud, covering the sky and the sun. It quickly enveloped Ouyang Roshue and Mu he. "Human, die." With a cold shout, Batu clenched his right hand. The black gas surrounding the 2 of them quickly transformed into ghost claws, and attacked the 2 of them with lightning speed. Tens of thousands of ghost claws formed from black chi, and the power of each ghost claw was not weaker than the full force attack of a top heavenly ghost. This was the strength of a Ghost King. He no longer relied on his physical body to fight, but could also use some magical abilities similar to martial technique. In the face of thousands of ghost claws, Ouyang Ro and Shuemu used their sharpness to resist. However, because there were too many ghost claws, in the end, the 2 of them were still heavily injured. Seeing that his attack had not killed Ouyang Roshue and her companion, Batu let out a soft cry of surprise. He was very clear about the lethality of his attack. No human had ever survived this attack, but Ouyang Roshue and her companion had done it. Looking at the 2 of them, although they were injured, it was obvious that they still had the strength to fight. His interest in the 2 of them grew. At the same time, his desire for their hearts grew even stronger. The hearts of such powerful humans were definitely different from the hearts of ordinary people. Without saying anything, Batu took a step forward and charged directly at Ouyang Roshue and Mu he. No matter what, he could not let these two humans escape today. He did not know how long it had been since Batu had been so eager to obtain the hearts of humans. He attacked with all his strength, wanting to kill Ouyang Roshua and her companion in the shortest time possible. Facing Batu's attack, Ouyang Roshua and her companions' faces darkened. A feeling of despair shrouded their hearts. They knew that they were no match for Batu, but they still did not choose to give up. After a fierce battle, it was clear that there was indeed a gap in strength. From the beginning, Ouyang Roshua and her companion were suppressed by Batu's day. After dozens of moves, Batu broke through their defense with a punch. Then, his hands turned into claws and fiercely clawed at their hearts. They could not dodge. There was no way they could dodge Batu's claw. If they were hit by this claw, the result was obvious. Their stomachs would probably be ripped open. A sliver of despair flashed through their eyes. They had never thought that they would one day die in the five-elemental Tao Palace. Just as the two of them were on the brink of despair, two strands of sword chi whistled over from afar. They viciously slashed at Batu's hand with great might. A cut appeared on his palm, and blood flowed out from the wound. The moment the two sword chi appeared, two black figures took advantage of Batu's pause and flashed over. They grabbed Ouyang Roshua and Mu He by their waists and quickly retreated, pulling away from Batu's day. "You've finally made it. I say, Mu He, aren't you a little too miserable? You almost lost your head." The newcomers were naturally Shao Qin and Guduwuya. They carried Mu He and retreated 100 meters before stopping. Guduwuya said with a smile. Mu He immediately heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Guduwuya's words. At the same time, Shao Qin carried Ouyang Roshua by her waist and retreated to Guduwuya and Mu He's side. Ouyang Roshua's face was slightly red when she was carried by Shao Qin. However, a look of relief flashed across her eyes. Fortunately, Shao Qin and Guduwuya had arrived in time. Otherwise, she and Mu He would have been in deep trouble today. Mu Feng let go of Ouyang Roshua. Then, on the battlefield of the prodigies, Mu Feng rushed over with more than 20 prodigies. With the addition of more than 20 prodigies, in addition to the prodigies who had followed Ouyang Roshua and Mu He, the prodigies from the Batu tribe were caught off guard. Moreover, with the support of Mu Feng and the rest, the prodigies who had been on the verge of despair saw hope again. They immediately fought with all their might. The battle between the Sky Prides and Yen Gui had stabilized for the time being. Meanwhile, Shao Qin looked at Ghost King Batu and said with a smile, "Since the two Sky Prides are no match for you, I wonder what about the 4 Sky Prides?" He could tell at a glance that Batu was a true Ghost King. Ouyang Roshua and Mu He, the two prodigies, were no match for him even when they joined forces. However, there were now 4 prodigies working together. Guduwuya smiled when he heard Shao Qin's words. "Let's make things clear first. The Tao Force seed belongs to whoever kills him. You can't go back on your word when the time comes. I don't want the Tao Force seed anymore. I must skin this evil creature alive today." Mu He replied coldly when he heard Guduwuya's words. It was obvious that Mu He had been suppressing his anger all this while. Now that Shao Qin and Guduwuya had arrived, Mu He had no other thoughts other than to take revenge and kill Batu's day. "I don't want it either." After Mu He finished speaking, Ouyang Roshua also expressed that she did not want Batu's Tao seed. However, the killing intent in her eyes showed that she had the same idea as Mu He. Today, she must kill this beast to vent the anger in her heart. Chapter 269. Ouyang Roshua and Mu He both expressed that they did not want Batu's Tao will seed. Shao Qin and Guduwuya both smiled at this. It was easy to imagine how furious the two of them were. As one of the 10 prides, which one of them was not proud and arrogant? Now that they had been beaten up by a thought ghost and almost lost their lives, one could imagine the murderous intent in Ouyang Roshua and Mu He's heart. "Then let's do it. Kill this evil creature," Shao Qin said indifferently as the scarlet-edged sword emitted a sword cry. After saying that, Shao Chun immediately used the dragon transformation. At the same time, Gudu Wuya and the other two also used their own secret technique. Their auras rose to the maximum. Then, their feet moved at the same time, attacking Ghost King Ba Tuesday. Two more proud kings had appeared. Ghost King Ba Tu snorted coldly and said, "Humph, no matter how many ants there are, they are still ants. Die for me." The four of them fought Ghost King Ba Tu and punched out. Facing Ghost King Ba Tu's punch, Shao Qin and Gudu Wuya slashed out with their swords at the same time. They both used earth-level martial skills. Two sword radiances shot out rapidly and collided with Ghost King Ba Tu's punch. With the combined power of Shao Qin and Gudu Wuya, Ghost King Ba Tu's punch was successfully blocked. Ghost King Ba Tu was shocked. The strength of these two humans was slightly stronger than Ouyang Roshua and Mu He. It should be known that Ouyang Roshua and Mu He could not block his attack, but Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya had done it. Among the 10 proud kings, although no one said it clearly, Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya were obviously in the top 2. From the moment they appeared, they had displayed superior combat strength. Then, Shao Chun had defeated Li Hua proud King Fenglingyat. He had used the most direct method to prove to the other proud kings that his strength was at the top of the 10 proud kings. After perfectly blocking Ghost King Ba Tu's punch, Ouyang Roshua and Mu, he seized the opportunity and rushed towards Ghost King Ba Tu from the left and right. Ouyang Roshua held a long sword and slashed out. Icy cold spiritual energy instantly turned into an ice blade. Mu He held a long staff in his hand. As he swung his staff, blood chi filled the air. The two attacked at the same time, one from the left and the other from the right. While Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya were in front of him, there was no room. There was no room to escape. Ghost King Ba Tu could only choose to take the attack. The ice blade successfully cut open a deep wound on Ba Tu Ghost King's body, and Mu He's blood staff directly shattered one of Ba Tu Ghost King's ribs. And Mu He, and Mu He, and Mu He, and successfully forced Mu He, and Mu He, and attack. He, because he knew that Shao Qin and Mu He were a bigger threat than Ouyang Roshua and Mu He. Therefore, Ghost King Ba Tu wanted to defeat Shao Chun and Mu He first. That way, he would be in an invincible position. Black aura filled the air, shrouding Shao Chun and Yi Futian in an instant. Countless ghostly claws lashed out at Shao Chun and Yi Futian. In response, Shao Chun performed the Chun Jun sword finger. Streaks of golden sword aura clashed with the ghostly claws, perfectly blocking the ghostly claws that were coming at him. On the other side, Gudu Wuya faced the ghost claws and continuously swung his long sword. Rays of sword light flashed and perfectly blocked the ghost claws. The black gas ghost claws that were originally able to injure Ouyang Roshu and Mu He were all blocked by Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya. From this, it could be seen that Shao Chun and Mu He were indeed stronger than Ouyang Roshua and Mu He. Seeing that his attacks were all blocked, Ghost King Ba Tu's face darkened. How could this be? The two humans blocked his black gas ghost claws, and were not injured at all. A sense of danger arose in his heart. Facing two King of Prides, Ghost King Ba Tu had an absolute advantage. However, facing four King of Prides, reality proved that Ghost King Ba Tu was no match for them. The battle strength of each King of Prides was incomparably terrifying. With four King of Prides working together, not to mention a Ghost King, even a Tao-querying realm powerhouse would be able to fight or even kill him. His original confidence quickly disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. Just as Shao Chun and Mu He blocked Ghost King Ba Tu's attack, Ouyang Roshu and Mu He attacked again. At the same time, Shao Chun and Gudu Wuya attacked as well. The four King of Prides attacked at the same time. Seeing this, Ghost King Ba Tu did not dare to resist and immediately chose to retreat. He was no longer as confident as he had been before. The threat of the four proud kings joining forces was too great. Even if he were a ghost king, there was no way he could take on the combined attack of 4 proud kings head-on. This was especially true when Shao Chen and the other 3 had all broken through to the celestial realm. Their strength could be said to have increased by leaps and bounds. Seeing Ghost King Ba Tu rapidly retreating, Mu He coldly shouted, "Die, evil creature!" As he spoke, Mu He used his final killing move. At the same time, Ouyang Roshue, Guduwia, and Shao Chen also used their special skills. In an instant, 4 terrifying attacks enveloped Ghost King Ba Tu, leaving him with no way to escape. Facing the killing moves of the 4 King of Prides, Ghost King Ba Tu's expression changed greatly. An extreme aura of death enveloped his heart, and he unconsciously shouted, "No!" With a loud bang, the killing moves of the 4 King of Prides hit Ghost King Ba Tu at the same time. The powerful force was so strong that even Ghost King Ba Tu could not resist. Accompanied by a blood-curdling scream, Ghost King Ba Tu fell. With the combined strength of 4 proud kings, they finally managed to kill a Ghost King. As the terrifying energy waves slowly dissipated, everyone saw that there were a total of 40 sets of 5 elemental Tao Force seeds floating in the air above Ghost King Ba Tu's corpse. It was double the number of 5 elemental Tao Will seeds. Seeing the 40 sets of 5 elemental Tao Will seeds, Ouyang Roshu and Mu He's eyes flashed with joy. However, the 2 of them consciously did not step forward. After all, they had already said that they did not want Ghost King Ba Tu's Tao Will seed. It was a small repayment to Shao Chen and Guduwia. Brother Shao Chen, who killed Ghost King Ba Tu? Looking at the 40 sets of 5 elemental Tao Will seeds, Guduwia said somewhat gloomily. The attack that killed Ghost King Ba Tu earlier had combined the power of the 4 of them. In other words, the 4 of them had killed Ghost King Ba Tu together. Hearing Guduwia's words, Shao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Let's split it evenly. After all, everyone killed him together." Splitting it evenly, and even including Ouyang Roshue and Mu He, meant that each of them would get 10 sets of 5 elemental Tao Will seed. Hearing Shao Chen's words, Guduwia did not have any objections. However, Ouyang Roshue and Mu He did not agree. After all, they had already agreed. However, Shao Chen did not care about the 2 of them at all. He directly handed the 10 sets of 5 elemental Tao Will seeds that belonged to them and said with a chuckle, "If you miss this opportunity, you won't have this opportunity again. Moreover, how can the debt between me and Brother Gudu be repaid with just 10 sets of 5 elemental Tao Will seeds?" Chapter 270. They didn't care about these mere 20 sets of 5 elemental Tao Force seeds because of Shao Chen's strength. It was precisely because of his strength that the Tao Force seeds weren't considered precious to Shao Chen. Since everyone had worked together to kill them, they naturally had to split the spoils equally. Upon hearing Shao Chen's words, Guduwia also spoke up. "Brother Shao is right. How can the debt of gratitude between me and Brother Shao be repaid with just 20 sets of 5 elemental Tao Force seeds? The 2 of you are dreaming." Ouyang Roshu and Mu He weren't coy people when they heard Shao Chen and Guduwia's words. They immediately accepted the spoils of war that belonged to them. However, the 2 of them solemnly said to Shao Chen and Guduwia, "Brother Shao, Brother Gudu, I can't thank you enough. If you need my help in the future, just let me know." If it weren't for Shao Chen and Guduwia's timely arrival, Ouyang Roshue and Mu He wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. This was a life-saving debt. Although everyone competed with each other on a daily basis, this debt of gratitude would naturally be engraved in their hearts. Shao Chen smiled faintly when he heard Ouyang Roshue and Mu He's words. Now that Ba Tu Ghost King was dead, Shao Chen and the other 3 King of Prides had joined the battle. With the help of the 4 King of Prides, the outcome was obvious. The heavenly ghosts were no match for Shao Chen and the others and were quickly slaughtered. There were nearly 200 heavenly ghosts in the Ba Tu tribe. The Earth Mirror Spirit Reading ghosts were even more numerous. There were probably more than 10,000 of them. With so many spirit reading ghosts, everyone reaped a bountiful harvest after the battle. Of course, other than this bountiful harvest, the unlucky geniuses who died in this battle weren't so lucky. They could only turn into a pile of yellow soil and be buried in a foreign land. The path of martial arts was like this. When faced with a peerless opportunity, it was often accompanied by danger. If you could endure it, you would be able to walk further on the path of martial arts. If you couldn't, you would naturally be eliminated. Take the 5 elemental Tao Palace for example. Under the protection of the 10 King of Prides, the number of casualties among the geniuses was extremely small. However, there were still some geniuses who died in the 5 elemental Tao Palace due to various reasons. They belonged to those who were eliminated, and their path of martial arts could only stop here. 2 of the top geniuses who died in this battle were buried. One of them was a disciple of 9 Firmaments Palace. Looking at the 2 corpses, Xiao Qin felt a little emotional. However, that was all. It wasn't that Xiao Qin was cold-blooded. As a king of prides, Xiao Qin believed that he wasn't the only one. The other kings of prides, such as Guduwiao, Ouyang Rushua, Mu He, and the others, had all done their best to ensure everyone's safety. However, there were no absolutes in this world. Even with the protection of the King of Prides, one could only rely on oneself on the path of martial arts. No one could guarantee the outcome. Take Xiao Qin and the others for example. Although they had the protection of the sovereigns in the heavenly Qin continent, who could guarantee their safety. Moreover, if one wanted to truly step onto the pinnacle of martial arts, how could one continue to grow under the protection of others? One's future achievements would ultimately depend on oneself. The protection of an expert was just icing on the cake. It couldn't determine one's future achievements. On the contrary, relying too much on the protection of an expert would only harm oneself. After burying the 2 geniuses, everyone found a safe place to recuperate. The 4 King of Prides had already joined forces. Following that, Xiao Qin and the others led a large group of people and began to madly sweep through the core area. Tribes with half-step ghost kings were destroyed one after another. As the days passed, Xiao Qin and the others obtained more and more Dao intent seed. At the same time, their cultivation bases also grew higher. In the 5 elemental Tao Palace, everyone didn't have to think about other problems. Their only goal was to quickly break through their cultivation base. This was because once they left the 5 elemental Tao Palace, it would be impossible to break through so quickly. Therefore, everyone cherished this opportunity very much. While Xiao Qin and the others were madly hunting thought ghosts, another group of people was doing the same. Furthermore, this group had more people than Xiao Qin and the others. There were a total of 6 King of Prides gathered together. In other words, the 4 King of Prides and the other geniuses were currently divided into 2 groups. One group was led by Xiao Qin, Ouyang Rushua, Mu He, and Guduwiao. The other group was led by Huangfu Ao, Feng Lingye, Lan Xiao, Gu Mu, Huanggu, and Lin Nu. Huangfu Ao's group had arrived at the core area long ago, but they had entered from a different direction. During this period of time, they had also been madly hunting thought ghosts. Now, under the lead of Huangfu Ao and the other 5 King of Prides, this group had actually taken the initiative to attack a tribe of ghost kings. Although the process was rather difficult and dangerous for the 6 King of Prides, in the end, the ghost king of the tribe was slain as well. As a result, 2 of the 5 ghost kings of the 5 elemental Tao Palace had fallen. After successfully annihilating the ghost king tribe, the 2 teams had already entered the center of the core area, and here, everyone finally met. On this day, Xiao Qin and the others destroyed a tribe of half-step ghost kings as usual. Right after the battle ended, a group of several dozen people rushed over from nearby. From afar, Xiao Qin saw Huangfu Ao and the other 5 leading the group. Brother Xiao, Brother Gudu, Brother Mu, Miss Ouyang, it looks like the 10 King of Prides have finally gathered. Huangfu Ao smiled as he arrived before Xiao Qin's group. The 10 King of Prides and the group of Heaven's Prides that had entered the 5 Elemental Tao Palace had finally gathered. After a brief exchange of greetings, the strength of the 10 King of Prides had increased significantly after 2 months of training in the 5 Elemental Tao Palace. All of them had reached the lesser perfection of the Sky Realm. It wasn't just the 10 proud kings. The other Sky Prides had also improved tremendously. For example, Mu Feng and the other peerless Sky Prides had already broken through to the early stage of the Heaven Realm. As for the top-notch Sky Prides, most of them had also reached the Great Circle of the Earth Realm. Such an increase was definitely the greatest in the history of the 5 Elemental Tao Palace. Of course, it was also related to everyone's strength. Everyone knew that the current heavenly Chen continent was in a golden age that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. There were many Heaven's Prides and monstrous monsters running rampant. This also led to the people who had entered the 5 Elemental Tao Palace this time to be all Heaven's Prides. Everyone's strength was much stronger than those who had entered the 5 Elemental Tao Palace in the past. Not to mention, there were also the 10 King of Prides, such as Xiao Chen, leading the group. It was precisely because of their strength that far surpassed the previous years that they could be said to have swept through the 5 Elements Tao Palace and obtained dozens of times more Tao Insight Seeds than the previous years. With the support of such a large number of Tao Insight Seeds, everyone's improvement was naturally exaggerated. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.